The New Britain Board of Education, providing students with a high-quality education.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the most people I've seen in this room in more than a year. I'm going to welcome you to the June Board of Ed meeting and start with calling this meeting to order and ask Board Member Sanders if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I was looking forward to.
Okay. All right. Well, pretend it's over there.
There's one outside.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kristen, if you can call the roll. Here.
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 Here. Mr. Anthony Kane.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Listro.
Here.
Miss Annie Parker.
Here.
Miss Diana Reyes. Here. Miss Gail Sanders Thomas.
Here.
Miss Tina Santiana.
Here.
Okay. And if we can start with a moment of meditation. Okay, and now, do we have anybody for public participation?
Hello, Chairman Day, John Boyd for public participation.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, John.
Hi, good evening, Chairman Day, members of the Board of Ed. My name is John Boyd, Chair of New Britain Pride. I'm calling in this evening regarding the approval of the Declaration of June 2021 as Pride Month. Obviously, I am supportive of this resolution. Board member Joey Listro and I have been working on this for some time. I will make one note for the record that I do hope that there's greater collaboration between Pride and the Board of Ed moving forward, as there was not complete collaboration all the way through. Hopefully we can build on that relationship moving forward. But this is a start for the district. The first time that you guys are going to be designating Pride Month, and it's a great step forward. So I look forward to working with you, Chairman Day, and the Superintendent. Superintendent Sarah, thank you for coming to the flag raising this morning. It shows a great dedication and partnership between the school district, the city, Pride, and everyone. So thank you, Superintendent, for your commitment to LGBT plus issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on that list? Nope. Okay, great. So let's move on to the first issue here is a resolution. Alyssa, you want to introduce this?
All right. A resolution declaring June 2021 as Pride Month. Pride Month is a time to celebrate the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community while remembering the struggle and sacrifices made by the advocates and allies who worked and continue working to create a more inclusive society. Despite state law banning discrimination, harassment, and intimidation towards LGBTQ+ people, inequities including homelessness, poverty, mental health issues, and substance abuse continue to persist among our youngest and most vulnerable youth. Findings from the National Institute of Health published in 2017 highlight numerous healthcare disparities LGBTQ+ youth face, including their increased risk of STIs anxiety, depression, and suicide. A 2020 school climate survey released by the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network found that 87% of middle and high school students often hear negative remarks about transgender people in school, and more than 70% of LGBTQ+ middle and high school students were verbally harassed in the past year because of their sexual orientation. There is a need to focus on localized efforts that support LGBTQ+ youth, including student and school resources that focus on positive behavioral interventions and support. Resources on school climate that address harassment and parent engagement, as well as tools promoting student health and wellness. By recognizing Pride Month, we affirm our commitment to support other policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQ+ students, staff, and their families, and all people in community, including a commitment to review and consider board policy specific to transgender and gender nonconforming students. The Consolidated School District of New Britain commits to ensuring equitable access, equal treatment, and full inclusion of all people regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity. The New Britain Board of Education designates June 2021 as Pride Month to inspire equity, create alliances, and celebrate diversity.
We have a seconded resolution. Are there any other members of the board who would like to discuss this?
I'd just like to thank Mr. Listro for taking the time to put this together, and I was very happy to sign on in support of this. I think that New Britain has done a lot of great work in the past 5 to 10 years moving forward on some of these issues, but the work is ever ongoing. The figures cited in this resolution are painfully real. And there are students in our schools, in our lives, our friends, family members, people we love and care about, who often deal with harassment and feeling unincluded on a daily basis. And it's often very much hidden. And so I'm glad that as a Board of Ed, we can come together and support this and work to include all of our students.
Thank you. Any other board members? Yes, go ahead.
Hey, no, I just wanted to thank Joe Listro, obviously, and but also John Ford, because I really just thought this was a wonderful, and he tied it together with a wonderful event this morning that was attended by so many, and he did mention that Nancy Sarah was there as well. It was a phenomenal event, well attended, I thought, and really just something that we could continue to partner, not only with New Britain Pride, but continue to partner as allies and support our community as a whole. And I just can't stress that enough. You know, just being able to say, I can partner with you, and I'm not looking at how you identify, I'm just looking at you, the person. I think it was just a phenomenal event, both this morning and being able to hear that proclamation was just really, it was heartwarming. So thank you so much to everyone that contributed to it.
Any other board members? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add that as we discuss this, I think something really important from, that this resolution specific to the Board of Ed commits to actual actions. And any time that we talk about resolutions, I'm a person that says I'm not a big fan of necessarily resolutions and statements, because they are often very performative and just, something put out there to look good without action behind them. So I think that my favorite part about this is the fact that we state that we commit and reaffirm to supporting policies and practices and curricula that honor all of our students. And so I really look forward to continuing that work.
Are there any other board members who'd like to speak? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The resolution carries. Let's move on to, we now have a bunch of student recognitions, which Helps to explain the large crowd in the room. So these are always fun. And no, they're not here for the budget, right? So, Dr. Ortiz, you're going to do the first
Dr. Ortiz, are you doing
first one?
Cape?
Yep.
Did you want to take it right from
These are
there?
the, yeah, what's that?
Do you want to take it right from here, or do you want to just?
I'll take it from there because
Okay, sure, and you can go up to the podium.
You have it?
I do. Do you want to go up to the podium?
Sure.
So regarding the student recognitions, the program was developed to give local boards of education the opportunity to recognize student achievement and potential, and for the board itself to be recognized as a community leader. School principals select the names of 2 middle school students from their buildings who demonstrate distinguished leadership in school activities and daily life, as defined by the criteria developed by a subcommittee of CABE's Board of Directors. Nominated students should exhibit the following leadership skills: willingness to take on challenges, capability to make difficult decisions, concern for others, ability to work with others, willingness to commit to a project, diplomacy, ability to understand issues clearly, and ability to honor a commitment. Tonight, the Board of Education proudly recognizes the following 2021 CABE Student Leadership Award recipients from De Loreto Elementary Middle School, and that's Xiomara Cruz and Isais Rodriguez Sanchez. Congratulations to them.
Mr. Ortiz, stay in the picture. Yep. Do you want to step back a little bit? Oh, you have one more thing. I'll hold it for you. I'll hold it for you. Where are we looking? Oh, too many people in here. Oh, are you okay? Take them off for a minute? You good? All right, take them off for a minute?
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations. Oh, wait, we're not done.
Oh,
We're not done. We're not done.
Really important pictures.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep going. Keep going. I knew I was shaking my head with something. Congratulations. Thank you. We expect to see you back in education someday.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, take pictures there. Yep. Get it? Okay, we have to turn over here.
Good job, Isais.
Okay, next one. Float design.
Look at the picture too, right behind you.
Yes. So here, yes, Anna White joining us here.
That is amazing.
Want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't bring my script. I get nervous when I
I have a script.
It's freestyle. I can't.
Yes, you can. You think you can.
Improv.
Do it your song.
I'll do some interpreting. I received a phone call from Mr. Eric Barbieri, the Director of New Britain Parks and Recreation, and he invited the art teachers and students to submit designs for a float that would be displayed in the 2021 New Britain Memorial Day Parade. Mr. Barbieri recommended some ideas incorporating city landmarks, and bees, beehives, the sesquicentennial logo, and a birthday cake celebrating the 150th anniversary of the city into the float design. 2 winning designs were selected and combined together to make one incredible float representing New Britain. Although Mother Nature unfortunately stood in the way of the parade, the Board of Education proudly recognizes the following talented students and teachers of New Britain for their outstanding artistic achievement. So, from Satellite Career Academy, teacher Carrie Walszewski and student Najle Easterling. This is her design. Is it Najla? Najla. This is her design. I don't believe she's here, but this was her design. Then from Pulaski Middle School, under teacher Kelly Nadolny, Christopher Nunez. This is his design. It's awesome. Amazing. So then they took the 2 designs and they put them together and they built the float. So although we didn't get to see it for the Memorial Day Parade, it should be at the 150th celebration in downtown New Britain. So I hope you can all come out and see it. So great job.
Thank you. Beautiful. I'm so impressed. Could you give me that? Yes, sorry. I'll go behind because I'm so tall. Yeah.
When they give the word, yeah.
Right here.
Okay.
Oh, over here.
We're
Sorry.
Oh, we're looking
at the actual video camera instead of a real video.
Oh, masks off.
Okay, nice.
We're all 15 minutes of the meeting.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold on. Okay.
Okay, pivot to the right. Oh, I see, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Awesome. Connecticut Elks. I'm gonna, are you gonna do Elks? No. Oh, Mrs. Foligno, if you can come forward, and your invited guest. I'll leave this right here for you. If you want to read that first? Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bob's here. Nice to see you.
Do you want to come up here?
Thursday and Friday.
Hi, good evening. My name is Robert Perron Sr. I am the Drug Awareness Chairman for New Britain Lodge of Elks 957. And every year we run a drug awareness contest for grades 3, 4, and 5, which is a poster contest, and grades 6, 7, and 8, which is an essay contest. And I have been Lodge Chairman for the past 20 or so years. And in those 20 years, New Britain students have continually excelled in their posters and essays at the state level. Our association is made up of 33 Elks lodges in Connecticut. Our Northwest District has 8 lodges. So when a student competes in a poster or essay contest, they're competing against 32 other lodges. Our New Britain students have done wonderfully over the past many years. And this evening, we are here to award certificates and gift cards to the winners of this year's contest from New Britain schools.
You want me to read the names?
I
You
have.
have them? You have them right here. They're
Yep.
right there, too.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay, we'll start with grade 3. And this student took first place in the state for grade 3. And along with the certificate, will be presented with a $125 gift card. And that student is Navia Lopez. Now, I would like to add that all these winners are from the Smalley Academy. And that's how outstanding their posters were this year.
Want me to take that for you over here? Yeah.
Okay, in grade 4, this student took 3rd place and will receive a $50 gift card along with a certificate. And that student is Alane Cartagena.
You guys want to stand there and get the picture? We have our art teacher, Miss Emerson. This is her last year in New Britain. I know. Congratulations, son.
Now we'll go to grade 5, and I'd like to add also that there's 4 cash prizes for the winners at the state level. The first place cash prize was $125, down to $40 for 4th place. In addition, 1 poster and 1 essay is chosen as best in state. Of all the posters and essays submitted, 1 is chosen best in state, and that comes along with a $200 gift card. And I am proud and honored to announce that this 5th grade student poster has been selected as best in state and will receive a $200 gift card. Just Mary Morales.
We're going to take the show on the road. We'll get in the car later.
This next student placed 2nd in grade 5 and will receive a $100 gift card. And that student is Carolez Martinez. Our next student placed 4th in the state and will receive a $25 gift card. Sally Hassan. Sally.
Where'd it go? Oh.
I'm not taking that. No, I'm just telling this clerk to do a group photo with
Oh, okay.
See
Are you taking a picture here?
Not individual, we'll do a group
Oh.
photo. But for the family.
Is it, okay, and we're going to do a full group photo at the end as well.
Okay.
All right? Do you want to just stand over here? Because it's almost over. We'll take your picture after.
If the students did not finish in the money categories of place 1 through 4, they were awarded an honorable mention certificate for making it to the state level. And this 4th student of the 5th grade has received an honorable mention. And that student is Barbara Conones Mercado. Okay, that completes the poster contest for grades 3, 4, and 5. Moving on to the poster contest. Our go-to middle school is Hell's Academy, who has consistently shown that their students... Oh, did I miss one? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I must have not placed this last student on. This student has received honorable mention, certificate of achievement from the Smalley Elementary, Ali Amir Altari.
Andrew, have Elmira stay with us too. Oh, he is, yeah. All right, I'm going to ask, before we go to the middle school, can we have all of the elementary students who won an award, we're going to take a picture right over here. Come on with me, we're going to go over here.
And parents, if you want to come down closer to take a picture close up, you can do that as well.
Perfect. You want to see over here, honey? Do you want to come on over here?
If you want to come closer and take a picture, that's...
Oh, yeah, we have to take, are you just good to take the mask off? Or do you want to leave it on? It's up to you.
Everyone ready?
Yes.
Right over here, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, I have a bag. Don't walk away. Are you good?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, okay. Here's a bag.
Okay, we already got...
Oh, we have a bag for you too, please. Here you go. You have your bowling bag. Good job.
Now for the presentation of the essay contest. And this year's theme for both poster and essay is drug abuse, no excuse. And the reason why topics are chosen without narrowing it down to a specific idea is they want to see what kind of input the students have in their posters and essays when they're given a broad title to work with. And the students, as you can see in New Britain in the poster contest, were just tremendous. And again, all these students that are going to receive awards are from Hales Academy. Starting with grade 6, this first student, the essay has been chosen as best in state and will receive a $200 gift card. Oksana Lysek.
Masks on or off? Yes. I'm vaccinated. Thank you. Great job. Just stand over here, hon. We're going to do a group picture in a minute.
This next student in grade 6 has placed second in the state and will receive a $100 gift card. Melanie Sepulveda. The next student received a 4th place finish with a $25 gift card. Gabriela Jablonska. And this next student finished with an honorable mention certificate. Julia Grzezelak.
Good job.
Moving on to grade 7. This student received a 3rd place finish and will receive a $50 gift card. Zachary Boisrand.
Zach is also performing for Juneteenth on the African drums, so he'll be there at the New Britain Museum of American Art for the closing ceremonies.
It's on the 19th.
The 19th. Good. Good job, Zach. Wait over there, honey. Oh, over there? Yeah, we're gonna do a group photo.
The next three students of grade 7 received honorable mentions. Jacob Seck. Olivia Dupont. And Aiden Zayas.
Dad can take your photo. Jeez.
Grade 8, the student placed 3rd and will receive a $50 gift card. Maura Kane. This
Have an accept. You can stand over here.
And this student finished with a 4th place and a $25 gift card. Ariana Gonzalez. Is that it? And the next student received an honorable mention at the state level, Michelle Spiewak. And this last student received a Lodge Certificate of Achievement for participating in our program. Unfortunately, did not make any place on the state level, but we issued certificates at the Lodge level for all participants. And that student is Jelena Olmedo. And that concludes our presentation of the poster and essay. I would just like to thank the superintendent, her staff, the principals, teachers, and students of Smalley Academy and Hales Academy for participating every year, and for the superintendent's support, getting our message out that it's okay not to do drugs. And thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
And do a group photo, and any parents who want to get another picture, welcome one up.
Let's do like the few in the front. Matt, you're supposed to be guiding me here. I'm clueless.
Few in the front, few in the back.
Okay, I could have said that. You guys come back here.
So how about we do 5 in the front, 3 in the back, so don't want to say shorter, but shorter one in the front.
Nancy, you're in the front.
I have on wet shoes.
Your new son?
Mrs.
Sarah, would you like to be in front of me?
I really don't. I take my
No one
shoes
is
off. I got
outside
flats
of
on.
Mr. Gay, and no one is outside of Superintendent Sarah. Scoot in there, right behind Melanie. There you go.
Oh, guys, take your masks off if you're comfortable.
Perfect. All right, if you're standing behind someone's head in the background, find that slot
right between heads.
Right there. What's his name?
Yeah,
Oh,
right there.
Aiden, right? There we go. All right, perfect. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Right here at this camera, please. Got it. Now your parents.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great job. Yay. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to new business. Let
I'm the state chairman of Brooklyn.
parents and kids go into the hallway. If you don't want to stay for all of the business meeting, you're welcome to.
Join us.
Okay. So now we will move on to new business. We have two items of new business that we're going to take early so that we can let some folks go home. Go ahead.
Motion to go into executive session for discussion of a legal settlement between De Leon v. the City of New Britain with
Second.
with the board, Superintendent Sarah, and the city's attorney,
John Dyken.
Attorney Dyken, and Mr. Kane, Kevin Kane.
So hopefully this won't take too long and we can get back to the next
Yes.
item on the agenda, which I know a bunch of you are waiting.
You have to vote.
Okay, oh yes. All in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
All right, now we'll go into executive session. Okay, it is 6:51 and we are reconvening after executive session. Mr. Mercer?
Motion to approve a legal settlement in the matter of De Leon v. the City of New Britain in the amount of $1,750.
Second.
Okay, we have a second in motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Two. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Now let's move on to administrative appointments. Mr. Mercer?
I motion that we approve the following administrative appointments. Lisa Kwecky for District Assistant Coordinator of Physical Education, Health and Wellness, PK through 8. David DeFranzo, District Assistant, yeah, it's not gonna be good, guys. District Assistant Coordinator of Athletics, Physical Education, Health and Wellness, grades 9 through 12. Sylvia Mayo Molina, District Assistant Coordinator of Bilingual, ESL, Dual Language and World Language. Kimberly Hurt, District Supervisor of Special Education, Bridges at Chamberlain Elementary School and Holmes Elementary School. Kimberly Billy, District Supervisor of Special Education, Bridges at Slade Middle School. Latanya Lawrence, District Supervisor of Special Education, Bridges at New Britain High School. Krista Christ, Assistant Principal at Chamberlain Elementary School. Edgar Garcia, Assistant Principal at De Loretto Elementary and Middle School. And Janice Magrice, Assistant Principal at Slade Middle School.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? All in favor?
Welcome.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations.
Can we get one picture with them?
Okay, we could get all of the new administrators down front so we can get pictures.
Did you? And I'm just going to say one thing for the camera. I've never been so excited to, the interviews were amazing, really showed who you were as people. We're really excited, and I could just see how everyone fits in the puzzle in terms of strengths and coming together. So I couldn't be more thrilled, and I have to thank my admins who did all the pre-work of doing all the interview, and thank you for interviewing. I know that's not easy, but we're excited to have you on board. Very excited. Yeah, Kirsty, you're in the front. Sylvia, you be in the front.
I know, I think.
Oh, for the date?
Right in front of Dave.
Okay.
Is that everybody? If you're comfortable without an ask for a photo.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. All right. Sounds good.
Great year. See you at June PD. Thank you.
Okay. So we are now on into a superintendent's report.
Feels very boring compared to what we just went through. Hold on.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Do not have to say.
Yeah, right. Run. Be free. Run.
I'm sure you'll be watching.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, Janet.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
We will see you soon. This feels more normal now, right?
Yeah.
So there has been so much going on in the district over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully some of the board reports people will talk about some of the events. Meryl, you've been to a few great events. It's really nice to be in person with the kids again, even if it's with masks and we're without food, but it's just been, the energy is really good. So that part's been fun. Parallel to that is our work on the American Recovery Plan dollars, which total about $50 million. And so what I wanted to give you now is a timeline and an overview of the work that we've done. I won't go bullet by bullet, but suffice it to say, we'd had a meeting probably May 14th on a Friday with the State Department of Education, all other superintendents, just kind of giving us the landscape of what's coming for this money. Very similar to ESSER 2 with 4 priorities. This is a bit different. ARP, the one significant difference is the 5th priority, which is around safe and healthy schools. So of that $50 million, and I heard Lamont speaking to it a little bit, I think yesterday on one of his news or press conferences. It's around building a safe and healthy school. That's really the newest, and the only thing I'm giving you right now is the priority areas that we're looking for with the safe and healthy schools, because you have already gotten a preview of what we're doing for academics, what we're doing for social emotional, and the other 4 priorities. But the timeline also includes an invitation that you'll be receiving tomorrow to join us when we review with multiple stakeholders on, I think it's June 17th. My committee chairs will be reviewing with you the needs assessment that they went through with their committee. I do have committee chairs on each, and they have multiple stakeholders on each of the committees. Question? Oh, okay. So you will be receiving an invitation on June 17th to join us. We'll be at Town Hall. It'll be virtual. There will be multiple people on that call. We'll also be recording it in the event that you can't make it for the 17th. But it is about just really getting your feedback on what we've proposed. The areas that I want to just talk very briefly about
is, I'm gonna get there, it's on page 2, the Building Safe and Healthy School Priorities. So Mr. Dion and Mr. Kane head up that committee. And the first and most important that they want to take care of with a good portion of the $50 million, let me put it in context also. ESSER 2, we received 23, Kevin, where are you? But I think it's 23 million, right? And so that leaves, and again, we want to extend ESSER 2, we want to continue that in the next school year. Well, that leaves us with quite a few millions to what can we do to improve the physical environment of our schools. So the first thing we're looking at are those environmental concerns. We are looking for an environmental consultant to assess our ceilings, piping, and flooring for asbestos, to really go through and be thorough. Kevin Dion's probably on the call, I'm gonna paraphrase him, but you've gotta start with the bones, right? You've gotta make sure, because even we want the air conditioning in the buildings, but what we don't wanna find out is after we open up and we try to do vents and all of that for the air conditioning, we find out that we're stumbling onto asbestos. So the first thing is to do that environmental scan, know exactly what we're dealing with around this. And then our second priority right after is to air condition our buildings. We recognize that our buildings are going to be renovated over the years. We're talking several years, right? And so right now, a minimum, we're 2 years with Chamberlain before we could even discuss the next renovation. Most of our elementary schools are not air conditioned, and we have HVAC issues in some of our middle schools and the high school as well. So we have to take care of those issues as well. So air conditioning and heat are priorities. Window replacement, I know that we talked, and Kevin Kane, I see you here, but it was mostly at the middle schools we were talking about the window replacements, correct? Correct. Right, bathroom renovations, we all know, I mean, these are, a lot of them are, and it's not that they're not well made, they're 1950s, but it's time for a facelift and a redo. And then painting of all of our buildings. And we're hopeful that number 1 doesn't cost all the money, because we really want number 2 and number 3, we really do. So those are our priority areas that we're looking at for that. Gail, I believe they invited you to be a part of the committee, and again, I know if you can't, just let us know. We take minutes anyway. All of our minutes are available for anyone to look at all the committees as they meet and work their way through their SWOT analysis. So that's that. Any questions on that before I move on? The other thing I just wanted to say, and I know Matt has put it out there, our New Britain Living Legends project. This is spearheaded by the Recovery Office, Jen Wright, with the 2 new facilitators. We are looking to do Living Legends, and we are having our students do interviewing of people or naming people that live in New Britain or have made a significant contribution to the New Britain community, and they're still alive. Our students will conduct brief interviews with the nominees and then create a visual mural representing the individual's lives and accomplishments. This will all be done during our summer programming. The creations will be on display at our summer showcase on August 6th, but also we're looking to put it, for around 100 distinguished people to honor as a way to give back to our community, and it will be on display actually at the 150 celebration of New Britain. So that's kind of exciting. And really good for our students to look for and find the gems in New Britain. Also, Meryl and I were fortunate to be at the Scholarship Award night, and there's so many wonderful scholarships given out. We did want to recognize Rosalind Smith, who is our valedictorian, and Abigail Olson. They received the Walter J. Kenney Scholarship, which is a full ride to the college of their choice. 4 years, I know. And the mothers were there, they were crying harder than the kids. Because they recognize, and they recognize just how life-changing that will be. And it was nice to see 2 young women up there receiving that award. Both will be going, and again, it's restricted, and it's really based on academics, but merit and their willingness to give to the community, etc. And both of them are going to be going into bioengineering. One's biomedical engineering, the other one is bioengineering. Rosalind's going to be attending North Carolina Agricultural and Tech State University, and Abigail is going to University of Rhode Island. majoring in biomedical. So it was a great night. And last but not least, very excited that we will be having a new traditional. We will be having a traditional graduation ceremony. We're excited to see all of you there on June 19th. It's good and bad, but we have Juneteenth going on at the same time too, so it's that. So that will be on at Veterans Stadium. You can read through the details of our students. Our students are really excited. We did have our senior prom on Friday night as well. It was beautiful. It was supposed to have been at Walnut Hill, but the weather wasn't cooperating with us again. So, and I have to just kudos to Meg Shea, Antoine Billy, Smedley was involved with this. They came, they just made that gym look beautiful. And you think of just an attitude of gratitude with our students. 2 years ago, if you said you're going to be going to a gymnasium for your prom, they would have been, what? But everyone was so happy to be in the gymnasium because they were all together. We had the food trucks out back. It was just a lovely, lovely event. So that's about all I have to say.
They had on the most amazing outfits.
Oh,
the
beautiful.
boys don't just wear regular tuxedos anymore.
And the shoes and oh my gosh, they were
hair
beautiful.
matching the dresses.
It's so creative.
It was like
Yeah.
amazing.
It was just really nice. And they had high top tables outside so the kids could just peruse the food trucks and eat outdoors, and it was a nice flow. They had the red carpet on the way in too, which was kind of cool. So it was nice. It's been a good couple of weeks. That's it.
All right. Committee reports.
What kind of report?
Committee reports.
Okay, we had a lot of items on our agenda this last time, which you will find on the consent agenda. A lot of job description, a lot of job description changes for some. So we have quite a few items here, which I hope we don't have to go over tonight. That we're just gonna vote them in. But you guys do whatever pleases you. That's it.
Okay. Finance?
Along with Andy, it was quite a long night of spending money. We did take in $10,000 for a story grant, right?
Storytelling,
The rest was spending on summer seas, like a lot of the programming, and some new jobs. But it was long.
And curriculum?
Yeah, we also have quite a few things on the agenda, a lot of kind of purchases and renewing licenses and items like that. But I want to point out something like the Learn Zillion 6 through 8 illustrative mathematics, right? So some of these things have kind of a sticker shock of a lot of money on them, but since we have those ESSER funds, we're able to take these little luxuries, and it's like one of my mom's sayings, lo barato sale caro, cheap things turn out expensive, right? So because we don't have a lot of money in our budget year to year, we cannot typically do like 5-year subscriptions or whatever to the math resource, to the ELA resource. And it's actually much more expensive to do the year by year thing that we can afford than to get a multi-year contract. So it just feels so good to be able to do those things that actually save us money but require money on the front end. And like updating classroom libraries, there's a lot going into that as well, and that's really amazing versus teachers having to share carts of books. Yeah, I just get excited because it's something that I know I see in other districts and things that our kids very much deserve. So yeah, there's a lot on there, and it's all got money tied to it, and it's all wonderful.
Okay. And policy? Everett.
I was unable to be
Oh,
there after
okay.
Sims.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. It took like 2 seconds because we tabled stuff. Yeah, so Nick was not available, Mr. Mercier was not available. Well, we did not have anything that was pressing that day, so we tabled a few things to talk about them further.
And Mr. Lister, anything from wellness this month?
Yes, the Wellness Committee met last week. We were looking through the school meals survey results that just came in. One thing to note on them, there was an overwhelming response for more halal foods, and that is the direction the Wellness Committee has been going in, recreating or creating a halal menu specific for the students that request that. And we are preparing to do a food show that would highlight the different options available for students who want different halal food. That'll happen later this summer. And one other thing, I do want to say thank you to Mr. Taddeo from Woodson's. There was about 70 pounds of lettuce that was grown at Slade Middle School that he took and harvested. Well, we harvested, but he took, processed, and got out to the schools on Friday. So the students were able to enjoy some school-grown lettuce with their pizzas. You may even have it tonight.
I think I had it tonight.
Sounds surprised.
Okay.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to explain halal better than I?
I can Google it. But is it like kosher, no pork?
Yes, it's
right.
yes. So kosher is
Yeah.
to Jewish as halal is to Muslim.
Muslim equivalent of
Muslim dietary restrictions.
yes.
A lot of similarity to.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that does all of our committees. How about board reports? Any board members have reports?
Oh, I did something.
That's it.
On Saturday, a couple of, well, a few retired teachers and some of their friends got together, and we asked people to donate books, and someone donated $1,000, and so Mrs. Constantine went to Barnes and Noble, spent hours picking out, hand-picking books, beautiful books for the kids, and then Nancy came and brought books. Teachers from Slade donated books, and she started receiving books by FedEx, and some people just donated, didn't even give their name or anything. So we went over to Stanley Quarters Park, and we separated the books based on grade level, and then we took all the new books and put them together. And what we did was we gave 5 books out to each student, 4 grade level books, and they could choose 1 brand new book. And we had put notices around. I dropped off a notice at the library. The librarian said, "Can you tell students to come to the library?" And but we went to the playground at Stanley Quarters. Well, I shouldn't say we. She did, and my friend Sue, and she was like the Pied Piper. People would be there playing with their kids. She would go down and get them, and the parents would have to follow. And they came up, and we individually had teachers, go with each child, help them pick out the appropriate books for the grade level, and then let them pick out a new book on their own. Some cute little kid got his book, and he goes, "I want to take a picture with you." And I said, "Oh, you must know I'm a grandmother." Elijah, we took a picture together. But it was really, really nice. And she had, the reason I keep referring to Sue, because she really did all the work, Sue Constantine. She had a list of activities that the parents can do with the students, with their children, and then she put together a little box with some money to change and a few coins in it. And they would, every time they read to a relative, they were supposed to put some money into their little container. So, and we had a lot of books, and we had some left over. So Nancy offered that when they send the food trucks around this year, that whatever books we have left over, they can hand out books then too. So it was hot. It was very hot, but it was well worth it. Really enjoyed it. And then the second thing was that OIC gave out the awards for unsung heroes, and my husband was one of the unsung heroes, although I missed his speech. Because I didn't hear him when he was speaking. I didn't realize he was speaking.
It was really low. He was first. And
That's what I think. That's why.
And then they were like, oh.
So he was saying wonderful things about me and the family, but I didn't hear it. So, but anyway, there were other people. Mark Finance was there. James Jones received an award. So there were quite a few people. It was really nice. And it was at the old Liberty Square, and they had tents out front. It looked real nice and nice breeze, and the food was excellent. It was good. Yeah, very good. That's it for me.
Any other board reports? Yes.
Speaking of the public library, a couple of weeks ago they did a book walk, which they've done multiple different iterations of, and there are a number of students there. So I just, another great opportunity for our students, and I like all the partnership that we can do. I know that for them this past year, not being able to get into the schools and read to the kids and all that, it's been tough. But I encourage any families, they're open now for families to come in. Their little arts and crafts bags that they prepare that the kids can take home have been a lifesaver. But we have a really amazing children's department, and the teen room is also fantastic with what they offer and what they have. So definitely worth checking out.
Okay.
Just really quick.
Yep.
Like tonight made my heart sing. Being able to see those kids in person, getting their award, I'm just happy.
Yeah.
At first I was a little anxious, but then I was like, this is what it's about. Like they're here, they're in person, getting their awards. It just made me super happy. That's the fun stuff.
It is. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no, I was just gonna second exactly what Nick had said and just say that they are looking forward to being open a little bit longer, soon to be open to their usual time pre-COVID of until 8 o'clock. And no one is more excited about that than me. Not only because then my daughter will be out of my hair for a few more hours in the evening, but because the kids absolutely love going to the children's department. You guys all know my daughter works in the children's. But at the children's department, they do have those bags. If you call them ahead of time, they'll actually put them in a bag for you. You just let them know when you're coming, and they'll make them ready for you. I mean, and even for book pickups and everything else. So I just can't stress it enough for everyone to be able to use them as a resource, and they're right there still working with their full staff. So it's just amazing to be able to see, and also, just to bounce ideas off of them for literacy with kids, which is always important.
Okay. Any other board members? Okay, let's move on to our school uniform attire survey update. Who's doing that?
Mr. Canada.
Mr. Canada, where are you? There you are. Sure.
This is in your packets, I believe. And I have presented this to the policy committee a few weeks back, and I presented updated results. Since that time, we have some more responsive plans. So those numbers that the policy committee saw might be a little different in terms of overall numbers. But for this one, they have requested that we break it out into different demographic types. And we did that based on Power School data, scheduling, reporting, ethnicity, gender, and then grade level. And you can see in the overall results, 3,086. We had more than 50% of the student population respond to this, by the way. 3,086 maintain, 1,068 eliminate, and 1,459 have a modified policy where they can choose which policy they want to follow. So those are the overall results. You can see on the second page there, the subgroup data of different reporting metrics.
Is this to the kids or the parents, or both?
This was put mainly to the parents. The kids could have participated, and then the admins and secretaries and teachers also helped fill in the blanks by talking to the parents and seeing, what their option was. This was in that overall survey with reopening back to school, the uniform and the wellness committee stuff. So it dropped into one. So So there's the data. Is there any questions? It looks like it's obviously tilted more heavily towards maintain. And if you combine the maintain and the modified, obviously it's a big advantage in that direction. Yes?
This was, when they were asked this, it was just asked to choose one of these 3 options.
Yeah, the text at the top of the page was exactly what was on the survey. And we had a link to the actual policy as well.
I just want to say, in terms of maintaining, my granddaughter who's going to be in 10th grade next year, so it'll be her first year at the high school because she was home this year. And seeing the little outfits that they have for the kids now with these little half shirts, I wish they had uniforms for the high school. I tell you, that's going to be a battle every day, but I'm going, you can't go to school like that. So I'm going to miss those uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
Not a good way to start the day off.
Okay.
Just one other question for the policy committee to potentially have a little more insight with this. Do we have a record of those who like said modify, eliminate, to potentially reach out to them to ask for like some more narrative feedback as far as if they were looking for modifications or if they were looking like what their recommendations or comments might be?
We could pull the data of those who selected that. Maybe an option would be to create an open-ended Google form where they can submit comments based on that. We can do a mass email to them. Would that be what you're looking for?
I think that, speaking as the chair of the policy committee, I'd like to get that perspective because, you know, you take those 2 groups together, it's not quite half, but it's close, right? And I'd just like to be able to drill down and see, because if the majority want us to maintain and the next majority wants some small modifications or have some feedback on it that can help steer us towards a more universally accepted policy, I think that'd be a good thing for us to possibly have for our next policy committee meeting in a couple weeks. Would that be feasible?
Yeah, so you want just the modified group?
Modified and eliminate, like what their feedback is. So like from the eliminate, why, what are their concerns?
Yeah.
And same with modified. Like
Sure.
what are their concerns, what are their suggestions? Obviously we can't please everybody.
Right.
But I think getting a little bit more, I feel like the maintain is a pretty solid, like,
Yeah.
we're happy with it the way it is. But if there's some room around the edges to maybe make it a little bit more universally accepted among our families, I think that might help.
Time is important, right? And only because our families, if we do choose the route of, they have to know. Like
Yes.
we need to let them know, summertime is when they start to, look for the clothing or whatever, so.
That's why I was saying for our next policy committee and then hammer out
So Nick,
something
you
at
don't
that
think
point.
when they said, C says the adoption of a modified uniform that allows parents to caregiver to either follow the uniform policy or not, you don't think that's enough of information?
I think that the problem with that is if you go with a modified policy where you can either follow it or not, that's the same thing as having no policy.
Or do you think it's modified, what is the definition of modified?
Modified was basically a hybrid policy which we can either choose to follow the uniform policy or not.
Or not? So it wasn't like, I could wear a different color hoodie because it's cold out. It wasn't that kind of modified. It was, I can or I don't have to.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with that, it really, if you're saying to them, we have a policy but you don't have to follow it, then that's not really a policy.
It's kind of like the mask, isn't it? Kind of like the mask, isn't it? You have the option of, from what the CDC said for the mask.
Oh, yeah, for
it's kind of
adults.
like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very,
I'm not saying it's a good one, but.
yeah, well, and the problem is like in a school setting, how would an administrator enforce a policy that explicitly says it's optional, you don't have to follow it? I think a policy like that would just be setting our administrators and our teachers up for potential headaches, and
Yeah.
you know, I'd rather see if we can find a policy that is clear, that addresses some of the concerns, because I view those as them having concerns with the existing policy, which might make them want to not follow it. But if we can address those concerns and get a policy that is more acceptable to everybody, that might be a win-win.
If you put the word hoodie in there, it'll be acceptable to every student.
Worried more about, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
So your next policy committee is the 21st. I will get this out by the end of this week and use all of next week to collect the data. And we'll have it. I'll send it over to Kristen to include in your packets.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that qualitative data will be very valuable because yes, the majority is keep, but really almost half either wants to change or, you know, so that's also a large number of people. But either way, you know, I'm just pushing for much more inclusive wording with, you know, including our own knowledge of policies that are more equitable and don't more target girls than boys, don't target urban fashion more than, you know, other styles that also might be unsightly but just aren't listed. So that's, I think it'll be good information.
It's interesting, the most support comes from the middle school level. For the maintaining the current policy, 60%.
I feel like that.
Absolutely, those parents are like, no, no, no.
Yeah, I was about to say,
That doesn't surprise me at all, Danny sentiments.
do we know which way you voted?
How many times did you vote?
I let my wife take.
Okay, we exhausted this topic? All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to take anything off of the consent agenda?
Item SS.
SS.
D and SS.
Is it D as in dog or?
D as in dog.
Okay. That's personnel, transactions, and SS. So we're into double alphabet here. SS.
Nick,
There we
what
go.
one did you say?
Approved summer.
SS, Summer Authority.
Summer authority.
Okay. Are there any other items that anyone else wants to take off the consent agenda? Okay. Going once. Twice, okay. So we will deal with those two separately, but the consent agenda, we have consent on. Let's move on to new business. We will do,
Consent agenda D.
okay. Go ahead.
Motion to approve the personnel, sorry, let me pull up the exact wording of it. Motion to approve the report of personnel transactions and extracurricular assignments.
We should second some.
Okay. We have a seconded motion. Someone want to talk about it?
No, actually, my son was hired as a PSA at Slade, so I just need to abstain.
Okay. Any other concerns about that item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have one abstention. Any other abstentions? Okay. Gail abstained. Okay, let's move on to item D.
No, that was.
That was D, okay, SS.
SS. All the way on like page 4,000.
I know, and I can't figure it out
This
between
is
what
summer,
and what.
approving
like,
summer
Motion
authority.
to approve Summer Authority.
Second. Hopefully I'll find it soon.
For those who aren't familiar with this, this is where we give the superintendent authority to do things while we're not meeting, or the summertime.
The actual. Yeah, and the only reason I wanted to put this out there is it's just to make it clear what this is. We do have some newer members on the board, and during the summer, there's often a lot of hiring, that new staff that needs to be hired, things like that. And so what this does, and there's also a great deal of purchasing that happens over the summer, etc. We don't typically meet as regularly over the summer. And so this is giving the superintendent authorization to approve bid waivers and purchase orders in excess of our normal amount that requires board approval, and also to, I believe it also has, it's also the authority to the superintendent to like designate that if she's out of town, designate that to the chief financial or assistant superintendent. All of the things that are done under summer authority are reported out to the board throughout the summer, and and typically in the cases of bid waivers, purchase orders, things like that, it's done in consultation with the board president. So it's not like it's done entirely in a vacuum, but this is something that we've done many, many, many years. It's common practice for the board.
Okay.
And I did have a question from, how did it change? I remember last year and the year before it changed from previous years where there was not as much authority. I could not locate that policy. We were at New Britain High School in the library.
And if you recall, prior to my tenure, the former superintendent, I guess there was more restrictions, right? More discussion around the hires. Do you recall that discussion?
There was a cap. There was a cap on the hiring, I think.
Well, we had a cap on the hiring at that time, anything over $65,000. That was, and Kevin, he's the Encyclopedia Brown back there, so I mean.
About 65.
It was 65, right. Anything over the 65,000 again, but what we would do too is if we had one that, and again, I will say 65, 2 years later, we are looking for shortage areas, and we need to pay to get the people here that we want to keep here, and I feel that way. I'm very conservative. I feel very conservative, and I will always reach out to leadership to say, I'm doing this, do you want to talk? We don't typically not call and inform everyone what we're doing.
That's the part of the conversation I do remember, which was that figure is just not comparable, especially for the shortage areas. And the problem is that if we're still hiring in the summer, it is those shortage areas.
Mm-hmm.
So, most things, people are hiring, they put out their positions in the spring, people fill them. And so what runs into the summer and close to the school year tends to be those shortage areas.
And just look at tonight, I mean, the administrators that we brought in, and thank you to the talent office for really just helping us set these up early, getting people in. We're aggressively interviewing, and we'll maintain that throughout the summer because of the huge amounts of hiring that we have to do.
That aren't just going to be the shortage areas this summer.
Right, but all the administrator positions have.
Are full.
Mary Ellen, I'm looking to you, but I'm pretty sure we have everything done. Oh, one AP, that's a third AP, right, we have one AP that we still have to hire for.
Okay.
And that would be for Jefferson.
Here, I just know past practice didn't necessarily go well, right? It was before your time. So
Yes, it
I
was,
just
thank
would
you.
caution that we do it every year, it comes on the agenda.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay. Okay, so we have a seconded motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed, or? Okay. And any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. And now let's move on to new business.
Motion to approve the superintendent's budget request for the 2021-2022 fiscal year.
Second.
Mr. King stepped out of the room at the very moment.
Okay.
Did he leave?
Did Mr. Snow?
You ran for the hills, yeah, okay.
Let me get out of here. Can we table that till he
Motion
walks
to,
back in?
this is the one time it's actually the right motion, guys.
Yeah,
Motion to table this matter.
second.
Second. This is a Kevin, you snooze, you lose kind of moment. Huh?
No, it means we can bring it.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Actually, get a card.
Okay, so, all in favor of tabling the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion's tabled.
Motion to approve the revised 2020-2021 district calendar.
Second.
And Mr. Ford, do you want to speak to that?
District calendar?
I think the only change is that 1186 did agree to the change in Lincoln's holiday to create the 4-day weekend.
Right.
It was on originally as tentative, but it is no longer tentative. I believe there's no change to
That's
But this is 2021, right? What
Yeah,
already
we
happened?
made a mistake on that
It
one.
should be 21, 22.
Yeah, what we have it,
Chamberlain half days?
Yeah.
probably,
Yes.
yeah, because it's 2021.
We're adding, we're going to have early release for 2 days for Chamberlain. We did the week for Smalley to pack, so that last week of school, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're proposing to give Chamberlain staff half days on Monday, Tuesday, for pack as we've done for other schools.
What do they possibly have to pack?
Oh,
The renovation, the entire classroom sets.
Aren't they packed up still?
come to the elementary
No.
level.
Yeah.
No, they are not.
Right, we don't want people packed up until the last day of school, really.
Well, no, I mean, things came out during, even though you were doing COVID, things have been, unpacked and being used.
Okay, so any questions, discussion about revising the district calendar? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
Motion to remove the approval of the superintendent's budget request for 2021-2022 from the table and take it back up as business.
Second.
all right, Mr. Kane? Okay, yes. All in favor of taking it off the table? And
Aye.
Aye.
any opposed? Okay.
Quick question, sir, we have the budget book with you?
Yes. You don't have yours?
I left it because I left it.
I looked at it, no.
I need one. You need one? I need the book, but I'll give it right back.
No, that's okay.
You want it? Yeah.
No, I'm fine. I looked
I
at
just left it with the same laptop I didn't bring because I was running around.
These are for the presentations.
I just don't know. I don't want a whole extra one.
What?
Thank you.
Stop discussion. Take it up.
Thought I would save you a trip, but it didn't work out, sorry.
Say the half because we have,
Like, there are legislatures that are in session and they just adjourn recess to council meeting. But it's considered session, so that takes something like that. Makes sense.
Yep.
But for us, our meetings are discrete.
There's three, yeah.
Oh, is it your presentation?
More paper, okay. Okay.
How is your presentation almost as thick as the budget?
Well, don't worry about it.
It's one single-sided.
Back in 1 second, I think I got a couple more.
You need one?
sure. I didn't look through it, but I left it in the car.
You didn't memorize it?
Get to page 2 in your eyes. Glaze over.
Oh. That'd be nice.
mask open?
Yeah, sure. That's a good idea.
Okay.
You want to just start a little bit?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we're fortunate this weekend. It's a very hot weekend. It's a great time to stay in, read a book, or read a budget book. So I'm sure you all read it. You know, so. Okay, one thing, I gave you a PowerPoint slide. It's 45 pages long. Don't be alarmed, we're not going to go through 45 pages unless you want to go through 45 pages. So you can take a vote right now and say no. Really on page 23, it gives you like it's an appendix. These are some slides I gave you guys in the past. All the data is there, so you're going to see them. It's in your budget book too. So like page 23, it goes to appendix. It talks about more detailed staffing, which you saw in your transmittal letter. It gives you all the per pupil expenditure reports that we out there, 3 or 4 copies of that. It explains excess cost, special education, and as you all recall, this is the 2nd year we're receiving, so next year is the 3rd year. Special ed, excess cost is a grant that is supposed to flow directly to Board of Education. It has always been flowing directly to the city, so if you read it, it's more of a contra expenditure. So when you send students outside the district and you spend $1 for that child, anything over 4.5 times your expenditure. So if your expenditure is, let's say, $13,000, so anything over $58,500 is reimbursable, up to 100%. We don't get 100% from the state, but if we spend $100,000, we do the net difference, $41,500, and the state usually comes back with about 70 cents, 75 cents on the dollar. That money flows back to the Board of Education. It's called a contra. It's a revenue that reduces your expenditure. So when pupil services spend $10 million on tuition, it's a lot lower than that anyway. $3 million comes back and reduces that expenditure to $7 million. So when you look at your budget, we no longer budget that full amount, we budget a net amount. So the gross amount is the 100%, the net amount is reduced by 30%. Yes. The other thing too is I gave you guys the table of contents, which I wish I had it here, but I don't know. So just make it easier for you if you go through your budget book and you look at the table of contents, you really can follow the budget. And one thing with the table of contents, it really just flows really quickly for everybody. Of course, I didn't take my table of contents here. So one of the things too, when you look at the table of contents, it gives you FTEs. And when you look at your FTEs, that's pages 4 through 10. So if you look at your budget book, you go on page 4, you're going to see FTEs by union. It's just summarized, really quick and dirty. And it gives you the combined FTEs. So if you look at page 4, it's showing admins. There's 7 admins. Local 51 is the administrative union. There's 55 people in Local 51. And it shows that next year's budget, 35 are reflected in the general fund and 20 in the grant funds. When we talk about the general fund is called the local budget. We always call it local budget, I call it general fund. It really is the general fund budget, but for school purposes, we always call it the local budget. 2407 is the paras. 1186 is the clerical, the maintenance, custodians, office workers, nurses. 818 is a supervised union. There's only like 10 people in there. And we have a number of non-union employees. Most non-union employees do follow a union. So for instance, BSAs follow 2407 union. Basically, they follow the rules within 2407. So if the para-union pays so much for health insurance, BSAs pay the same. So we have people that follow unions. We have a number of people that follow the 18 unions, like the deans, and there's some others out there too. If you turn the page on page 5 through 9, page 5 through 8, this really just gives you a breakdown. So when we talk about ourselves being an object code budget, everything we have in our budget has an object code. So for instance, if you look at an administrator, their object code is 51101. That's on page 5. Preschool teachers, 5103. So if you look, you'll see that the combined positions are one, general fund is the other, and the differential falls in grant funds. So of course, when you go to page 8, at the bottom of page 8, you're going to see that this really ties into the bottom of page 5. No difference. I mean, it just gives you a better breakdown. If you look at page 9 and 10, this is something we did a few years back. Once we started getting Alliance money, we started budgeting, we started showing the Alliance grant funds because it's such a huge number of positions that are being funded by Alliance. We started showing them as part of what's grant funded. So we broke it down. This year, because we have ESSER 2, I decided to show the ESSER 2 positions along with Alliance, really give you guys the illustration as to what's really happening. So when you look at this year's budget, and you see 239 new net positions, 161 really fall in ESSER 2. Okay, I guess Kristen's ahead of me on this one. Okay, so what you see in here, I didn't think you turned it.
It's like,
Hey, you really did turn it, didn't you? Okay, so Kristen, go back. Go back a few pages. Can you go back to page 3? He's going back. Okay. On page 3, page 2 are really just telling. Page 2 just talked about the COVID. This year was COVID-19. We had a lot of issues in the schools and in society as a whole. It affected students. Remote learning. One of the things we saw, it affected staff too. One thing with remote learning, and we started seeing a decrease, and that's a question we're going to find out later on. What is our decrease in students? Since I've been here in New Britain, this is my 9th year, our student population enrollment has always been somewhere around 10,093 to 10,300. This year, our October 1st number was 9,628. I'm not really sure we lost 4 or 5% of our students. I think with the COVID-19, there was some type of moving the kids out. We did lose some to the magnet schools, but we didn't lose 500 kids to the magnet schools. We might have increased our magnet schools by 30 or 40 kids or whatever. So we know that's not a fact. And we know that coming up this year, I believe those numbers are going to jump back up. Maybe not to 10,100, but it's going to be much higher. So we do know we lost some students somewhere on the way, and I'm sure we'll find them. One thing too is this year we saw transportation. If you remember last year, we had a huge surplus in transportation. It wasn't really huge, just because we stopped transporting kids to school, and we sort of made a deal with the transportation companies through Lamont to make people whole. This year, the same thing happened with transportation. They kind of asked you to keep the transportation whole. We did cut down buses this year, but we did run a full transportation this year. But for those middays, so we were transporting kids Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. But you have to remember, on those Wednesdays, we still had kids being transported to special programs. We still had the kids that were being transferred to Goodwin Tech, our own kids. That's our responsibility, we pay that. And we still had kids being transferred to the correct magnet school in New Britain, our kids. That's our responsibility. So this year we did see some savings. Now, one of the things, the big thing coming up right now is the Federal Recovery Act funds. As we all know, there's ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. And they kind of blend with each other. ESSER 1, we're using for technology, improvements, cognitivity. It's really almost a digital divide that we always talk about. This year, we expend about $2.6 million. Next year, we dedicate the other 2.5, 2.6 to continue working with the city of New Britain to expand Wi-Fi, and that's something that your board did recently. ESSER 2 is $22,902,000. What you can see in this budget is a much higher number. So when we look at ESSER 2 as it has 27-month life, let's call it. It starts around July 1st. We know it started a little before that. It ends up September 30th, 2023. When you look at this budget book, you're going to see, and you're probably going to be surprised, you're going to see $14.3, $14.4 million being appropriated for ESSER. Now, when you look at grant funds with ESSER, it really has a 3-year, has a 2-year plus life. So we're planning to spend $14.4 million, 14.3. But I can tell you, we probably won't be spending 14.3 in the first year anyway, because we know we're going through a hiring thing. We believe we're going to hire a majority of those positions. But like anything, if we don't hire those positions, there's always surplus, and we just keep regenerating. ESSER 3 is going to pick up the differential. That's what the superintendent talked about earlier. ESSER 3 is really an extension of ESSER 2. So let's use ESSER 2 as an example. Let's say we do spend $14.3 million on ESSER 2 this year. And you're all saying to yourself, well, that only leaves us $8 million the following year. The plan is that's when, if things are working, ESSER 3 will kick in and pick up that differential for the second year, and ESSER 3 will pick it up for the third year. Now, one thing nice about the ESSER grants, it allows you to go back and fix it. And what I mean fix it, if things aren't sticking, you know, one of the things that came up recently when we hired the 15 LPN nurses, one of the board members, I don't know which one he asked today, it was a good question, how long is this for? And Jackie Matty says, I don't know, it's probably for at least a year, it might be 2 years. Well, in this case, that might be something that only stays a year, and then something else comes in and takes over for us. So that's what I'm saying, you know, with the ESSER funds, they're going to keep extending. Recently, an administrator asked me, he says, wow, you know, what happens with ESSER? What if you don't spend it? Well, to be honest with you, it's really prudent that we do spend it because it's a drawdown grant. So when we look at ESSER 3, we talk about almost $50 million. I don't think Uncle Sam's going to mind in 3 years if we don't spend it. That's on us. So as a board and an administration, we need to make, you know, number one, we have to spend it well, but we have to spend it. You know, we can't sit there and debate it, and we can't. But by September 2024, it needs to be fully expended. We can't come and do some type of improvements and say, geez, we can't get the contractor in here and, you know, we can do it now. No, we have to have it completed. So you have to basically have the job done, encumbered. You know, when people think encumbered, you need to have the job done. It needs to be completed. You may not pay them until October or November just because you're cutting the check, but you have to have it done. Next one. Now, when you look at the budget book, this is a general fund summary. And, you know, as you can see, we're flat funded this year, okay? And I know people don't like the word flat funded, but I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. It's flat funding, it's flat funding. I can't come to a better terminology. But it's flat funded this year. But thank God we have some monies coming from the ESSERs. That really makes a big difference, so it's a relief, and we're going to do okay with it. When you look at your budget book, you're going to see on page 50 through 54, I actually give you guys a comparison. 50 is just the cover page. 51 is really the first page. It gives you a comparison of what the adopted budget was. Well, this is your adopted budget tonight. What your adopted budget is tonight in the general fund versus last year. And that's what you're really seeing. You're just seeing the summary differential. So if you look at that, you're going to see a line item budget, and you're going to see the differential. And all I'm doing right here is I'm summarizing it by categories. Our categories are 100 salaries, 200 fringes, purchases 300, and then it goes all the ways down. So you're really seeing the general fund budget. The increase is $577,000 in salaries, 85 in fringes, and then it has all these pluses and minuses down below, and it equals 0. Next slide, Kristen. So your next slide really gives you an 8-year history on our budget and how we were funded. 7 out of 8 years, we got the same budget, and 1 year we had an increase. So over the 8-year period, our budget increased, cumulative increase is 0.025%. It's a 0.25%. Next slide. So in this year's budget, which is very similar to other budgets, we really make it up through the grant funds. This year's budget book represents an increase of $22,384,378, and it's fully from grant. One of the things you're going to see here in Title I, what happened last year with schools closing and all that, we actually, the state allowed everybody to carry money over, and we couldn't spend it this year because one of the problems we had this year, it was hard hiring people. I think we all realized that. You know, we had a number of positions, we just, you know, it was hard to fill positions. I mean, a lot of positions were hard to fill. I mean, we had things this year's budget, even like with sub-services, like Kelly Services, where, you know, a teacher would be out and we'd call Kelly, and unfortunately, people weren't coming to work. And you couldn't get the subs, so teachers and paras that were working with, so we had a lot of surplus in this year's budget, Kelly Services, where we used to spend, you know, I think 2 years ago, I think it was like $1.9 million, right? We budget 1.6. I think this year, maybe we spent $800,000, $900,000. I mean, you just couldn't find them. So Title I is we're going to ask for an extension on Title I. You're supposed to spend 85% of Title I in year one, and the remaining 15% in year two. In that things happened here, we weren't able to expend it all. We spent probably about 55%. So there's going to be we're going to ask for an extension in September, and every 3 years they give you a waiver. We're not sure they're going to give us a waiver, but if they don't give us a waiver, I'll figure it out. Because we do have, we do have funding available. Title I is $2.4 million. And what you're seeing, when I talk about $2 million waiver, that also includes a 15% that we always carry over anyway. ESSER II. ESSER II is $22,902,450. This budget reflects $14,340,000. Like I mentioned earlier, we're probably not going to spend $14,340,000. That's okay. We might spend $11 million. I know when I was talking to the superintendent and Sandra Sanford on that, kind of the goal was to make sure we had more than half appropriated to be expended next year, knowingly we're not going to spend it all. We know it's going to be very difficult to spend the $14 million. And you remember too, when we talk about hiring people, we don't always hire people on the day we really want to hire them. It might be a month later, it might be 2 months later. And when people leave, it takes a while to replace them. Alliance, that's an increase to $3.9 million. You're seeing Commissioner Network out there. And the only reason you're seeing Commissioner Network out there, this is year 2 of the money. When we were doing the budget book last year, the plan was still being worked out, so I didn't put it in the budget. But it's not new money. Other grant funds is a differential, $6,000. So the total increase is $22,384,378. Next slide, Kristen. And it's 100%. It supports 100% of our budget. Next slide. To be honest with you, it looks just like the slide before you. It's just a summary of the general fund budget, adding the grant fund budget, and the change dollars at the end, $22,384,378. It's the same dollar amount.
Kevin, do we want to stop and see if they have a question?
Oh yes. Anybody has questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes.
For the last 5 years I've been on the board, every year we go over and we say, what will it take to make us whole? $40 million.
Actually, more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
But we're taking, yeah, right.
Not make us whole, just put a patch on it for right now.
Yeah,
Right.
Any other questions?
Can I just clarify, the Alliance grant, 2341, that's the one that was a legislative change a couple years ago, and every year we should be getting increased.
Yeah, it's supposed to be,
through
it's supposed to,
2030.
the Alliance grant, my understanding, Tony, is supposed to be like it's like a 10, it's like a.
Make whole.
It's like 11 years. First year was 5%,
Yes.
and years 9, 2 through 10 was supposed to be 10%, and the last year was 5%. So when we first got the Alliance grant increase, I think in year 1 it was like $1.9 million, and it became 3.9, and it's supposed to be 3.9 for a number of years, and then go back to what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be phased in.
Right, but it's not considered, it's considered separate from the ECS.
No, it is ECS. So what you see on ECS every year, ECS, before we had the Alliance, ECS for the.
Just for clarification, does that money pass through the city or does it come directly to the Board of Education?
It's sort of, it passes. Yeah. It passes to the city as a grant, but it gets deposited in our state and federal grant fund. It comes directly to us, but it does go to them as a check because we can't receive the money. So when they receive, like our grant fund is really with them, but it's our grants. Same thing with our general fund. The city's kind of owns our cash book. So when we cut checks, it goes against the city, but it's really sitting on our side. They receive the grant. That's what it ends up. And and they're very good at it, but the people in my operation know what's coming in. And the city is very good at recognizing what's coming in, but at the same time, my people are good enough to recognizing if it doesn't show up on our side, sometimes there's a human error out there. So we always catch it, and right now it runs really well. So the city does receive it for us. Just like Title I, all that money goes to the city, but it specifically says Title I, and the city knows that Title I is education.
Because as I understood it, it was meant to be a catch-up on ECS, but as it's coming in, it comes in kind of.
Well, it's a little different. Alliance is different in that it was done for the poorer school districts. So what the state did with ECS, Alliance is ECS. There's no doubt about it. It's ECS. What the state decided with the poorer school district, they didn't want to go through any politics with a city or a town with a board of education, the state said, no, we don't want to get involved in this. So when we give you those extra dollars through ECS for you communities, it's mandated, it has to flow to you. With other communities, it's not exactly mandated, but it's supposed to go to you. So that's the only differential. It's more mandated, and the city does know. The city does know when they look at their ECS funding, they know 72,450,000, 710 is theirs. And originally, the ECS money for the city of New Britain, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, before my time, was just under $74 million. And it's still the same $74 million because there's a 2% set aside that we always request. So the poorest school district can request that 2% set aside. And it's been 2% set aside has been here since I've been here and even before I came here. So that's why you see in the city side 72.4 million. And then we have an ECS grant that shows up 2% set aside. But the Alliance is part of that. It is part of the whole thing.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So next slide. Okay, that's the next slide is the same as the other slide, just combines everything. Chris, you want to give me the next slide? Okay, this is net changes by fund. So here I'm just showing you really quick and dirty. If you look on the left-hand side, you see 239 net new positions. You see local, general fund, you see their column, you see Title I, you see yes or two, you see Alliance, and you see other. The only reason I'm showing you Title I right now is usually Title I has a few extra positions or less positions, but because we're carrying dollars over, I want to show you what that really does. So you're seeing 239 net new positions, 16 fall in local, 23 at Title I, ESSER 2 is 161, Alliance is 41, and other grants, -2. So every year we're always moving things around. When I look at the budget document every year, I have to move positions. You know, it's not really playing God or anything. It's just I have to move things over to look at what can we afford each grant, and actually look at the grant and say, can this position go to this grant? We're not eliminating anything, but we always have to move positions around. So that's what you see here. Next slide. This slide right here, which you saw earlier, really just gives you the total increase in the budget. You see in the grand total, we have 239 new staff positions, net new staff positions, the salaries, the net differential in salaries. So if you actually look at pages 51 through 54, you will see on page 51, the differential in the combined budget, 15 million, if you look at right at the bottom, you see 15,164,000. So these numbers come right from that slide. That's the grand total. So the grand total is salaries is 15,164,000, fringes is 3.7. It gives you a total personnel cost. Same thing with the local budget, general fund budget. You have 16 net new positions. Total cost is 577. Well, I don't really say total cost. The net increase is 577 because we move people over, we move people in. So the net increase in that budget is 577. The fringes and insurance are at 85,000. Total personnel costs 662, and because we have a zero budget increase, down below under non-personnel, you're going to see later on, and we look at the budget, you'll see that decreased net total by 662. So we're looking at ESSER 1 as a good example, 161 positions, $9.4 million is salaries. You have to remember too, ESSER 1, 101 of those positions are the 77 TAs, the teacher assistants. So when we approved the teacher assistant positions, they were going to pay between $37,000 and $40,000. I just picked a number for the budget. I budget all of them at $38,000. I'm not really too concerned because we're going to hire them and we're going to have surplus and whatever. When you look at fringes and insurances, for years when I looked at a new position, I would just say, what am I going to budget for health insurance? And some people used to say, oh, you get budget a family because you're supposed to build your budget up. I used to look at it early on when I got here. I used to budget a couple, and the reason for that is when I looked at health insurance, I would say, I have 1,000 people being covered. We took coverage, and it cost me, $15 million, and a couple coverage, about $15,000. So bingo. Well, I started realizing a few years ago that not everybody here takes health insurance. So I had to throw my rationale out the door and say, geez, even though I have 1,000 people taking health insurance, only 70% take it. So if the other 400 don't take it, so really the pretty darn close cost for every new employee is close to single. It might be slightly higher. So for illustration purposes, when I add a new position in the budget, I put them all as single. Because I do know not everybody's going to take coverage. Because if you're 26 or under 26 and you still have some type of connection with your parents, hey, it's cheaper to be covered by them. Why should I pay 15, 20% out of my own pocket to have coverage? My parents have great coverage. If you get married, and usually that decision as when you get married and so forth is who has better coverage, who's cheaper, so you have a combination. We also have employees in the school district that are married to somebody in the school district, so only one person has coverage, or they should only have coverage. So this here just gives you a breakdown of all the costs. And at the bottom you see non-personnel costs, so we're looking at the total increase is $22,384, which is all grants, $3.5 million in non-personnel. I want to say 18.9 is personnel, which is salary and benefits. Next slide. Now I really want you to see the ESER 2 positions because that's where we're, this whole thing, this whole budget is really built around ESER 2. I don't want to say it's built around ESER 2, but it really stands out, and everybody, I want to show that separately versus the other stuff. So here's the 161 FTs that are showing up in ESER 2. You have 3 assistant principal positions that recently have been approved. I think some of them have been filled tonight. We have 4 CTI positions, which are district-wide, 20 instructional coaches, 2 facilitators district-wide, 3 speech pathologists, and 1 occupational therapist. And many of these positions you approved at the last personnel, and a number of them personnel prior to that. At the same time, at the manager level, I call manager supervisors. These are people that are in 818 or follow 818. Supervisor, custodians 3, partnership manager at Brent High School, which is very similar to the partnership manager that we have in partnership right now. There's 2 positions there, and a project manager for pupil services. Clerical, staff accountant finance, payroll system finance, 2 talent assistants, and 2 secretaries, partnership and academics each. We have 101 para BSA/TAs. As you can see, there's no really BSAs here, but we always call them BSAs. 24 key paras that were approved by the board, 55 teacher assistants for regular ed, and 55 teacher assistants for bilingual.
22.
Oh,
55 and 22. You wrote it right.
Oh, okay. Also, just recently at the last personnel committee, and probably tonight, there were 16 health medical positions. 1 FT nurse, a district-wide floater. Jackie Matter, supervisor, she really is the floater. What ends up being that, if there's 2 schools without a nurse, I don't know how she does it, but she clones herself. She goes this way and that way, and so So right now, that's a good thing because now they have a person that can move. At the same time, too, when somebody quits, you have a person that can actually take that job and then fill that position again. And then 15 LPNs, school building sites. And that was the thing that was discussion with the board. Do we need those? That's going to go on. And it's needed for next year, and it might be needed for year after. Next slide. This you have seen in the past.
Can we just stop and pause for a second? I just see quizzical looks, questions, comments?
Oh, yeah, please.
I'm just curious, the 15
LPNs?
What are?
We have the isolation rooms, and we have to have those in place and manned. They're separate from the nurses suite. It's what we've had all year for any student who has symptoms of COVID. They have to go to a separate space, and we man them with LPNs.
Do they just again? Is it something where an LPN is needed for manning that? Is it?
They do have to have medical. They have to have medical background. So yes. We struggled getting those this year. I'm looking because I know that everyone in the state of Connecticut was looking for the same positions, and so we did struggle. But Donna, can you speak to that, or Mark?
Or presently, we have we started out with certified nursing assistants in those positions. They were hard to come by, and when we hired them, that we did it through Delta T, an agency, they would last a short period of time and end up leaving and going to another position. So we ended up going to the LPNs that tend to be a little more stable in terms of staying in the position. And then we're able to utilize them as well to assist the nurse in the office, because clearly the room there isn't busy all the time. It's supposed to be in case someone has symptoms and gets sick. So during the downtime, the LPN has the ability to assist the nurse in the office with any duties that are needed in the building. But it does need to be medical person manning the office.
Is that, sorry to interrupt, is that per the state, or, I'm just curious, because Cheshire, we don't, it's not a medical person, it's.
It was important
generic.
to our unions that there was someone that was qualified in that space. That was one of the, during the original planning of it.
Someone with medical experience was important.
871 and Local 51 actually both said they wanted someone who could detect, know what it is and that sort of thing. So.
When you look at these LPNs too, I mean, they are needed, but we also realize with the LPNs, we might not be able to hire all of them. That's one of the things we're going to find out. What can we fill and what can we not fill? That may happen. It won't be enough. And if that's the case, then it's going to have to be a plan B. They may have to go to a service to find people that meet some type of criteria and bring them in. So those are things that may change all the time.
The floater, is that a full-time position?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like, it's like one thing, I don't know about Cheshire and Ms. Mercy, your school district, what you have for nurses. I grew up in New Britain, but I moved to Simsbury when I became the finance director. But I do recall in Simsbury, it's a wealthier school district. They had more nurses in their schools than what we probably have. They didn't have that shortage, that I think a lot of schools had too. They might have a nurse and an LPN, and their sizes weren't any bigger than us, but they always had 2 staff in many of the schools. When I came to New Britain, we have 1 nurse, and not to say that's not sufficient, but there's always a backup. So a friend of mine
Does
is.
every school have a nurse? Isn't there some that are even
Shared.
Yes.
Some share.
So you
Not even a full-time
you take
officer
Ralph or Roosevelt. Yeah, it's shared between programs. So that's one thing too. You don't really have the backup as much. Other school systems, because they do have more funds, they may have more people working in that school. So this way, it actually brings us to a better equation where you do have a qualified medical professional sitting there. Maybe he or she's doing something else, but there's a need. I'm sure Jackie Maddie can move people around.
Yeah, and she also mentioned that the paperwork that's involved for the people that are in that room, because you have to keep the paperwork for the state for the people that are coming. So it helps with that too. I have a question. You were saying there's a shortage of substitute LPNs. What are the substitute LPNs being paid?
I didn't get the question.
What are the substitute LPNs being paid? That's through a
I'm not,
service.
that I don't know.
Service.
The LPNs that are in this budget are, the annual cost would be $47,000, I think, $241, $291. Step 1 is $36.01 an hour. So we have them in our contract. We do have LPNs and nurses in our contract. Really, the LPNs are usually used for the one-on-one. So when a student comes into New Britain that really needs a dedicated nurse, that's when Jackie Maddie brings in an LPN on a temporary basis. Temporary they could be here 2-3 years following a student around, and if that student leaves, they may follow another student around. So she uses LPNs for those needs. She doesn't bring in an RN for those.
So the reason I'm asking, I know a couple of nurses, and I asked them to put the word out that we were looking for a substitute, but I didn't know how much pay they are paying. So they have different days of the week off, and so if they were subbing for the day, what would they get an hour?
Oh yeah, I don't know what their rate is. I mean.
Donna's looking at it.
Yeah, I can't remember what they get paid anymore. I guess she was not. Sorry.
We were looking for what's the rate of pay for a substitute LPN. Annie is recruiting for us.
I can tell you. I don't know off the top of my head.
But these are actual positions, not substitute.
Yes, these are actual. Yeah.
So substitute, do we typically use Delta?
What do we use Delta for the?
It's Soliant is the agency that we use
Okay,
for
so
the
something like
nurses.
Delta.
And I can
So
tell
we
you
wouldn't pay the hourly rate anyway.
Yeah.
We pay the company and they do what they have to do.
The hourly rate that we pay Soliant is $61 an hour for the LPN.
That's not what they get.
No.
No, they're,
Not what our end is.
the firm gets it.
No, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you think about it, an LPN for us, it's also somewhere in the $60,000 range.
It's contracted.
$60 an hour, just for health insurance, MERS and all that. So, yeah, what they're paying them is basically we pay them all in too. But something that's nice to have your own employee, but then again, they have the risk, not us. You know, if it's not a good employee, you know, it's much easier, so,
You can say, don't send me that one tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
We did that a lot.
Yep.
No thanks to that.
Yep.
Any other questions on this? Okay, so the next 8 slides, slides 13
There's
through
another
21.
question.
Oops, oops, oops.
No, that's okay.
Oh, right there. Well, yeah, oh, no. Okay, now this slide right here, okay, this is a slide you've seen before. This is just really the, something I've shown the last couple of years. It's giving the total picture out there. It's showing you the combined general fund, grant funds. It just gives you a breakdown. And you're seeing it in this year, 1,657 new positions down below. Last year, and when I compare, I look at last year's adopted budget. So I just want to be honest with everybody. During these years, sometimes we end up adding positions based on need. So the adopted budget last year was 1418. We probably added 20, 24 positions throughout the year with other grants and so forth. So, so tonight when we talk about the 239 net new positions, that's 239 from last year's adopted budget. This actually just shows you the differential, so you're seeing up above. It's broken down between certified and non-certified. So a certified would be somebody who has their certification for teaching. Even though I have my certification as a business manager, I'm not considered certified, so I fall down below. It's my life story. So you have certified administrators, you have certified teachers, and down below you have manager supervisors, clerical, para, blah, 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 custodial maintenance, health, and other. And others really capture a lot of, it captures the deans, it captures the FSLs, we can go on to it, but yeah, it captures all the differential. The next 8 pages is just really the budget analysis, something you've seen before. It's the budget analysis based on a combined budget. If I gave you the budget analysis for the general fund, it'd be like 2 pages worth. But here, if you look at pages 51 through 54, you're going to see certified salaries, $9,241,197 on page 51. That's a differential. This provides you right to the dollar, the exact analysis, backing into that 9,241. 89 net new positions for teachers was 6,430,521. The contractual increase, if you all recall, teachers agreed to a 1% increase in their wages for next year. So if I was making $50,000 this year, I'm making $50,500 next year. So that's the dollar amount, $774,590. Every year we go through retirements. And there's always a savings. We really don't know the retirements until we come to April, May, March. They keep falling in. That's the net savings on retirement. Yes, Ms. Mercer.
Was what they agreed to 1% no step or 1% plus step?
I thought it was 1% no step.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they were 1% just step. No step, yeah. We had 8 net new positions for administrators for 991,097. At the same time, we didn't lose an administrator, so the person that's actually retiring, our athletic director, his pay was much higher than the 2 assistants, so of course that gets netted out. So his
pay was, no.
Yes, he was probably 155, these 2 were 130-ish. So that's what I'm saying, you would have seen, yeah, you're paying more.
And then you got rid of the coordinator.
Yeah, but that's why some people look at that and say, wow, that was pretty, 8 people at 991. I thought we were paying them 130, 135. How'd you do the math? It just worked out that way. The contractual increases for anybody to consider administrator was 215. We have extra earnings in the budget. That increased from 1,146,000. Really, ESSER 2 is picking up 1.2 million, 1,259,12, that's exactly. So the other is a slight decrease for all the other local and grants. Stipends, we have an increase in stipends of 292,552, and the ESSER grants are picking up 307. So really, there's really a net decrease in stipends of about $14,000, and ESSER picks up 307, and that's where we get the 292, 293. Turn the page, non-certified salaries. If you look at page 51, you'll see that the net increase in salaries was $15,163,000. If you do the math, you take the $15,163,000, subtract out the certified salaries of $9,241,000, you're going to come up to $5,922,000. I do this in rank order, the largest dollars up front, smaller dollars below. The 77 teacher assistants, $2,926,000, $38,000 apiece. 15 LPNs, 1 nurse. And we did add an LPN during the year to meet a student's need. That's the 813,494. Then you had an increase in management supervisors. That's the 646. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you'll see anything I put in red is really is a subtraction. So you might see a plus and you see a minus. That means the minus is going away. The next page, you're going to see 24 key pairs at 24,600 apiece. That's the 5,9,400. You're seeing an increase in clerical positions of 12. And many of these are lower level positions. That's 524. You're seeing 6 custodians down below, 306,510. When you turn the page, you're seeing 3 family school liaisons. We added 3 family school liaisons early this year. So I don't want you thinking that this is something new that just happened. Over the summer, I think there was 2, and then there was 1 that was in September, or vice versa. Those are the 3 people there. Unnegotiated salaries, what's that? Well, 1186 has been unsettled for a number of years. So when I look at the budget, I take all those people, I gross up the money that we owe over time, I gross it up at a low rate that maybe should be higher, and that's really a differential between this year and next year. It's just a net change.
I have a question.
Yes?
In terms of contracts to be negotiated, what outstanding contracts do you have?
Well, 1180, okay, so everything, 1186 expired. It's 3 years, next year will start 4 years. All the contracts.
They don't have a contract, you say? So how do we get away with that?
Oh, easily. It's a benefit, you know, how do you get away with it? It's one of those things. Usually, yeah. Usually you need to go through. There has to be some type of meeting with the mines. If that doesn't work, then you go. A lot of times you go through arbitration, and all that stuff. It's there, but it's not there.
So what are we doing? Anything or nothing?
Next one.
She had a question.
I didn't know if you wanted to respond.
I get it. No, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Ms. Mannings is actually the director of personnel. I know she works with this. So usually what you do with it, my understanding, if I'm speaking out of turn, they have a discussion. Before she came on board, there was discussions about, let's get together, let's come to an agreement. And at one time, it was really may have been, but it just never got that far. It just kind of.
They didn't ratify, they went to vote.
Yeah.
We'd agreed as leadership, both administration and the leadership of the union agreed. They took it for a vote, and their members voted it down. So then we had to come back.
And that's where we are now?
Yes.
And just to speak more generally, 1186 doesn't fall under the Teacher Negotiation Act, which has very strict timelines, so you can never have your teachers out of a contract. So under the Teacher Negotiation Act, you're familiar with, I'm sure, from your years, but for those who may not know on the board, the Teacher Negotiation Act, you have a certain time period in which you can negotiate. If you cannot get a negotiated settlement within that time period, it automatically goes to mediation. You have a set window in which to mediate, and if you can't mediate by the end of that window, it has to go to binding arbitration, and that's it. You don't have the option with 1186, they don't fall under that, and so negotiations can go on. I believe and I believe it was the same set of negotiations. Last time I was part of a negotiation, we thought we'd come towards a middle ground, but then I believe a couple times the negotiator on the side of 1186 changed who their representation was from the union, which makes the process slow down. They have to get the new person back up to speed. So there've been several things sort of preventing this to get to fruition. And then as Superintendent Sarah said, the last time they had something tentative, the union voted it down, which puts us back to, looking at.
It's to their disadvantage, right? not
Yeah,
to
but we have a
ratify.
lot of unhappy people. That's three years without a contract going on 4.
Well,
And
that's
no,
that's why you go to arbitration. Right. I mean, people think arbitration is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I mean, and arbitration is actually make a correction. And arbitrator will correct. So people are going to be entitled to something, but we're not there yet. Mr. Mercier is correct. When I first got here, 1186 was going to settle for a couple years, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, and it just got dragged down. And once they settle, the contract already expired. So that's what, so this is the second time around, and I don't know, so this is an ongoing. Yes.
this is not, I'm very uncomfortable with that, especially with all they had to do for COVID and everything, to have a large group of people that we call essential employees to be working without a contract for 3 years. I just don't think that's right.
But you do have a contract.
Yes.
I mean, we do, so you do have a contract. You follow the contract that originally was there.
So does that mean they have not gotten a raise in all that time?
But they will get retroactive. Yeah, but at the same time, it's a combination of two things. If you're in a union and, my union settles or whatever, the teachers union settles and agrees to pay additional health coverage, that happens. When you stay with the old contract, so if your health insurance payment's a lot lower than what mine is, we've already settled at a higher rate, but also with an increase in health, that's what they pay. So, yeah, you're correct. It's not settled, but that's where you bring it together with either you meet together or you go through arbitration. And let me be honest, arbitration, nothing wrong with arbitration.
Oh, no.
Any of us. I mean, if you can't meet
It could be bad for us even,
Yeah.
arbitration could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to go there.
Yeah, right, so you're taking a big chance. So, well, the other thing I was going to suggest is, because of all they had to do for COVID and everything, we thank the teachers, we thank the secretaries, we have special days for doing that, every year. But we should do something for that group of people. I mean, they did all of that moving stuff around, cleaning, and they were at risk, so we should have some kind of celebration for them.
So we
Especially
did.
since we don't have a contract now, so.
But we did. I mean, what we did for the entire staff. Every week there was something. They had the pizza for lunch. And then we do have a luncheon for them, a nice, actually, end of the summer cookout that we do with them. And again, we don't want to sit here too long, but I think a little bit of this, in my opinion, is you've got multiple groups coming together under one union. You have custodians, you have maintenance, you have nursing, secretaries, four very distinct, well, 2 are kind of the same, but distinct groups who have needs. And it's a lot of people to get the leadership to get everyone to buy in.
I know I did that. That's what we for a while. I got sick and tired from Arda. So to echo exactly what you just said, Annie, I just needed to tell you that my day started with the events downtown for the Pride flag raising. The rest of the morning, prior to my 2 of my 4 children being in PT for the rest of the day, I had the wonderful blessing of 2 hours of learning about what we say. And the people who are hurt, and I mean hurt like, just being perfectly honest. I don't know what everybody else does out there, I don't know what happens, whatever the case may be. The people who are hurt, who are reminded that they are essential, are the support staff side by side. And I'm sorry, pizza's not gonna cut it. They have not, it's like it's stalled. I understand. I'm respectful to every side because I don't know enough to speak eloquently about it. never been a teacher, so I never had to worry about a teacher's union, but I'm looking at the fact that 3 years to a normal person may not sound like a lot. And you can't sugarcoat it and say, it's okay, you're still under a contract. They are missing out on their raises. And what they were offered was no raise and an increase in medical insurance. So, I understand it. It was just a reaction because I had 2 people who are 1186 who I just so happened to go to church with. So first I heard about it under Jesus' roof, and then I had to figure out exactly what they were talking about, and with no one to turn to, I just said, let me just go find out, knocked on the door and said, just tell me, what is stalling this process? It cannot be that people are going without raises and being reminded that they are essential. I understand it. I'm just saying, if you're targeting over here, it still doesn't show how much is being spent for the arbitrator that still hasn't been selected on one side, and it also doesn't speak to, okay, I understand this unnegotiated for unsettled contracts. Is that amount reflecting the 1186 only, or is there anything else that we should know about unnegotiated salaries for unsettled contracts?
That's really 1186. What I was trying to explain earlier, I'm always very conservative when I do anything for unsettled contracts.
Yeah.
And the reason why I don't put a number in there that you can back into, because I know it's low. And it's purposely low. But I know sometimes when we look at our budget, we may have surplus. So you never earmark something, you know, even when I was in Simsbury, the finance director, other places, you never earmark something so somebody says, this is my money, I know what it is. Because, you know, you're going to get what you get. And at the end of the day, whatever it is, I'll figure it out. So it's more just there for a budgeting thing. But you can't back in. If I had to talk to the board about it, it would have to be in an executive session. You would all have to swear I'm not going to talk about it, and I can tell you what it is. But it's very conservative.
Absolutely.
Now, if we're, you know, I'll move on really quick with the rest of this slide, unless you, there's 4 BSA positions, 128, 4 pupil service assistant positions, 127. Other changes, that's just a catch-all, guys, and when I look at the budget, at the end of the day, when I reconcile everything, I'm not gonna try to figure out the 61,947. Reduction in custodial maintenance, security, extra earnings stipends, that's the 108,996. If you all recall, back in July or so, we did a budget transfer, July or August, budget transfer. We reduced $100,000 on overtime. You know, one was 50,000 sub-services and one was $50,000 in overtime for custodian's maintenance. That's where 100,000, and the other was stipends and stuff. This budget reflects reduction of 12 PPT pairs. That's the exact cost for this year, 369,957. That's what you see there.
Where'd they go?
Next slide. Oh.
Where'd 12 people go?
Pardon?
You're saying this is a reduction in staff, that's negative 12, correct?
Yeah.
Where'd they go? They just.
Well, yeah. Okay. So when we look at our para positions, we have 200 plus para positions. This year, pupil services here, due to COVID-19, a lot of positions weren't able to be filled because people, you know, not everybody wants to work this year. So even though you're off a position, sometimes they get open. So this year we had a lot of unfilled positions. You know, probably 25. I'm just making that up, 25 or so. So nobody's losing their jobs. They're paras. There were paras that were PPT paras, but they're paras. They're all the same. They're just people that just basically say, you know, I'm going to be a PPT para. They were eliminated, but nobody was eliminated. So you don't look at a reduction in staffing. There's no reduction in staffing. If anything, we've increased our staffing quite a bit. You know, the paras, you know, BSAs, we increased the BSAs. We placed teacher assistants, which a lot of paras may find attractive, and it pays them more. So we've made it more attractive for people to move on within the organization.
So you're saying that even though it says a negative 12 PPT paras?
Yes.
That does
They've
not
been
mean
renamed.
that it was a loss of staff?
No, what the people were not. No, people didn't lose their jobs.
They were renamed.
There were 12 PPT paras. We eliminated those 12 positions, but we had openings, vacancies in the instructional paras. So these people moved over to the instructional paras, or we had 4 new positions that were pupil services assistants. Some of them applied for those positions and received those positions. So they just moved into either vacancies or new positions, and we eliminated those PPT paras.
That category.
So essentially, eight individuals were reassigned to work directly with children.
that still leaves a deficit of 1, like.
No, it doesn't.
is that my
Yeah,
math
we
wrong?
just moved to
Hold
the-
on, we just started at 12, you've got 8, and then where's the rest?
8, there's 8 and 4, there were.
Gotcha.
Yep. Four new positions and 8 vacancies in para instructional area.
So really the 12 shifted over to something else.
Yep.
It wasn't a loss here, and then where does that go? Because all I'm seeing is the negative 12 right over here, and I'm looking to just kind of figure out where they're going.
Do you have a slide where the,
Don't get me wrong, it just looks like they go.
No, I mean, so every year when we look at a budget, we actually, changes have to be made to move ahead. So when People Services looked at the operation, they started saying, how can we work smarter? They also realized with the openings they had, they wanted to make changes. So people aren't really losing their position, you're a para. You might have been a para, like years ago we had computer paras. And they were in the school system, and Jeff Prokhoff said, it works in certain schools, it didn't work in other schools. And Jeff felt it wasn't fiscally responsible. So he came forward to the superintendent, I was part of it too, and had discussion, went to the board, and said, I want to change this. I'm not finding the value in computer pairs. There were a couple of really good ones, and the other ones are okay. So when Jeff hired a couple of technical positions, he actually took a couple of the real high flyers, and they moved over to MIS with a better job, with more mobility upwards. But we made that change. People Services is doing the same thing. So when we're not losing positions, we've actually created more positions. But that's what management does. You have to make changes and move to progress into the future. And that's all they're doing.
No, I get that.
And a year from now, or 2 years from now, if they're all still here, somebody else may come in and say, you know, maybe we want to move back to something different. You know, so there's always going to be changes.
Well, wouldn't the ending of the grant determine that? Or
No.
Were they hired under the grant? Is that what it was? No.
No, okay, so really for the most part, everybody in the school district, when we look at grants, it doesn't matter if Kevin Kane's paid out a grant or not. ESSER 2 is the only thing, this is the first time we have an exception with ESSER 2. Usually we try to protect positions the best we can. So ESSER 2, we don't really know what's going to happen with those 161 positions. So with those positions right now, they're guaranteed for 2 years and may turn to 3 years. And then we try to find openings. So every year we have positions, I'm in Alliance, I'm in Title I, I'm in General Fund. For the most part, we're all the same. If we come to a point in time that we don't have enough funding, then the decision is going to come from the administration that's going to go to the board, which they did 10 years ago, and say, we have to eliminate 20 positions. And you're going to sit there and say, well, how can you eliminate 20 positions? Because there's no money to pay them. But right now, we're not in that point right now. They just wanted to do a reorganization to bring better products. They've been studying this for over the last year or so. So this isn't something that just came up this year. They've been talking about this for over a year about what they want to do. And this is the year they brought it forward.
Creating efficiencies.
Yeah.
No, and I get that part. I was just looking at the fact that there was the COVID recovery money. Is that what's considered the ESSER 2?
Yeah, so what you're seeing here tonight, ESSER 2 is 161 position. What they're doing over there has nothing to do with ESSER 2. The only thing for ESSER 2 that's doing anything for pupil services, we're hiring 24 key pairs. That is in there. That's the only thing that's affecting them, 24 key pairs. And if you go back to the ESSER 2 slide with the positions, you'll see that. You see the 55 teaching assistants, the 22 teaching assistants, and you see 24 key pairs.
Okay, so only those 24 key pairs are the ones that are coming back under the COVID recovery money?
Yes, and those are the things that, if funding is not here a couple years ago, but you never know, in 2-3 years from now, if funding's not available, there may be a discussion internally that says, hey, we need more key pairs, and let's say we don't have enough funding. There may be a decision, they may eliminate positions to keep some positions. That can always happen.
No. Like, to me, pairs are instrumental, so I get it.
They're not.
Kevin, click that accept.
I can't see a negative 12. They're like, what are all these people doing?
There's a mouse. There's a mouse.
If you don't mind,
Well, I didn't see that.
he did the presentation at
Finance Committee, they should delete it.
Yes.
like 2 meetings ago, and all of that.
I heard that. Oh, sorry.
Well, because I was on board with that, but it was probably like 2 tax ago.
Well, and then, so we usually, whether it's budget and actually later in the year, I would anticipate seeing it. We always see fluctuations in paras. because paras, you may need more because some PPTs happen and, you know, it's legally mandated and there it is. Or you may see less because now somebody doesn't need it and then same thing. Right, or outplaced or whatever, and then usually there's something in the district that that person may be qualified and moved over to. So that's actually one of the areas we see the most fluctuation in anyway.
Next slide.
Yes.
Okay, next slide is fringes and insurance. Health insurance budget increased by $1,837,326. The new positions made up $1.8 million for ESSER. You'll see a $1,789,319. The 54 net increase for other positions is $573. We also realized a decrease in premiums this year of 1%. So that's where you're seeing negative $264,285. And we also had a change in employee coverage. We lost 12 couples and we lost 1 family. So last year when we did the budget, we had 13 more people receiving coverage at that point in time. So I actually looked at the numbers and I find out what the difference is. FICA Medicare, you know, we always know Medicare, there's not real much FICA. Medicare is 1.45%, and all employees are on Medicare, and our payroll increased by a number of dollars, and that's at $217,000. Retirement MERS. Many of our teachers are TRB, teachers are TRB, and admins are TRB. People like myself, paras, it could be anybody. Anybody that's not a certified staff is under MERS. MERS has been going up a lot. So when you look at pension plans, some communities' pension plans aren't funded well. The state of Connecticut pension plans aren't funded well. But one thing the state did on the MERS is the MERS plan is run by the state. They're actually ratcheted up the contributions. So when I first got here 8 years ago, I think we were paying somewhere about 10%, 11% for our contribution towards every employee. It's now 19%. So what you're seeing here is the MERS contribution for next year. The increase is 1.668332. The increase in payroll, because of all the new positions we had, is $5.6 million. Hit that by 19.2%, 19.02. That shows that $1.6 million, $1,090,000 is just based on increased payroll or increased positions. But our increase in MERS, if we stayed the same, would have been $577,377. So these two numbers actually tie into our increase. Next slide. Instructional services, we have an increase of $1,421,000. It all sits in the ESSER 2 grant. It's for community partner programs for after school with the community partners, outside BCBA services with people services, which was discussed at the last meeting. Bus monitors, we have an increase of $168,000, $155,000. It's really because of the special programs we're running, and there's a need from people services that certain buses have to have monitors. In service costs, that's $1,910,000. This is $1,716,000 is the Ed Advance contracts. Now, when I explained to you earlier, when I showed you the increase in commission network dollars this year, and I said it's year 2, because I didn't pick up last year as year 1, this is basically what it is. It's just being flopped out, and now it's year 2, and now you're seeing it. One thing with the Ed Advance contracts, they were being picked up 100% through the commission network. New Britain High School dropped out. A small piece was being picked by New Britain High School. The other 3 grants, they get reduced, I think 25% every year. So instead of, if you look at it and say, like, look at the Smalley part, I'm just going to make this up. Let's say Smalley was picking up $500,000 last year. This year would be $375,000. So the differential is going to the Alliance grant, and that's what you see down below. And then I give you a slight, other in services through the Commission Network 164, and local and other grants is just the catch-all is $29,868. Other services, medical is $133. It's really people services is actuals. Next slide. Repairs and maintenance. We talked about this in January. We're trying to spend at least $1 per square foot in our buildings. I know our building square foot it's just under 1.8. I 1.8, you know, I think the square foot is 1.8 square foot. It's like 1.7 something. It just makes it $1,800,000 a year. So that's what that's doing. So it's $1 extra. The rentals, Pope John Paul, which is Chamberlain, 132. Fern Street, with adult ed and central registration is 60. And other changes, -21. Yes.
Do you have down somewhere like additional busing
I'm sorry.
for Chamberlain? When we renovate Chamberlain, we kind of.
Yes, and I've actually, you know, that's the thing too. So Rich Valerio is working on that.
Okay.
He knows. So yeah, so you're correct. You're going to see in the busing, we're going up a little on busing, but you know, it's always it's a flexible number. Next slide. Transportation. Okay, so transportation, we're seeing an increase of $861,000. We're actually seeing regular ed as a decrease of 193, home to school -474, summer school 43, after school activities through ESSER 2, we're seeing an increase, so ESSER 2 has additional money. Mr. Valerio, I'm gonna give a shout out to him. He's done an amazing job filling Mr. Hellick away on deployment. He really has. I mean, he's done an incredible job. Very diligent. So, and you know, transportation is something that we always look at. He's on it. Right now, this is his best guess estimate. He came back to me later on and had to make some more changes. Special ed outplacement, we're seeing a huge increase in special ed outplacement. Home to school, 947, and summer school, 106. And both of them, you see the contractual increases. First student contractual increase next year is 2.5%. And especially is 3%. So that's part of the so-called increase that's showing up there. Outside tuition, here's a big one. And you know, I hand it to People Services next year. I might be saying something differently next year. People Services has seen a huge decrease in outside tuition, outplacement. And this budget has a huge decrease in outside tuition. Let's say about $1.4 million. We know magnet schools went up just under $200,000, and right now People Service outplacement is 1.6. We may be doing something different. I mean, they've actually brought a lot of kids back in. This year when I was doing the budget, I was talking to the superintendent, I said, I'm really conservative this year. I'm gonna be as low as possible for some of these numbers. So they may be not thanking me tomorrow. But that's one thing too, when I looked at this year's budget, I said, you know, a lot of times we generate surplus. And a lot of times surplus is generated from positions. Because even though we have an open position, sometimes positions aren't filled all the time. I think we found that out. So even though we may have 100 teachers, and we know we're budgeting, I don't know, $1 million, that's a little low for 100 teachers. We find out that, you know, they're only filled 95% of the time, 96% of the time, so we're always generating surplus. So when I looked at the outplacement for People Services, and a great job, I was very conservative. I did the same thing with talent. And you know, we used to start budgeting more and more for outside sub-services. I said, I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to budget a conservative number. Went back to the $1.6 million that we used 3 or 4 years ago. We were up at 1.9. I'm sure when they come to me during a year and say, geez, we just spent $2 million, I'm going to say, well, figure it out. I'm not worried about it. Because there's always something you have to look at. Next slide. Custodial supplies, that's a decrease of $266. And really the main reason for that is this year's budget, we increased it by quite a bit because of COVID-19. So, you know, we increased this year's budget by $316,000. We used to always budget $300,000. So what I ended up doing, I ended up going back over the last several years and saying, you know, we've always spent more than $300,000. Forget the year before. We averaged about $350. So that's what we're budgeting, $350, which is lower than this year, but $50,000 higher than we did in the past. Instructional supplies, majority of this has come from ESSER 2, $299,000. Other grants and local make up the differential. Okay. Next slide. And I think that's what you have here. I mean, the budget in front of you tonight is 125.7. That's requested, and it's the same thing as the adopted budget for last year. It's 0. If you look at the next slide after that, not to expect you to look at. This is the appendix I was talking about, the famous appendix. So we call it now. You know, so if you have any question on any of this stuff that's attached to it, but it's things you've seen in the past. So that's it. Questions?
How did you smile through the whole thing? I'm just curious.
I don't know, I'm so happy to like
The process.
Because it's over, right? Like
It's like Christmas for him when he delivers his book.
Yes, ma'am.
I take it this assumes that the mayor's budget is adopted as proposed and all of that.
Yeah, this is, yeah, and if, yeah, I think it was, well, maybe it hasn't. Has it been adopted yet? I saw something that's supposed to be coming up in another meeting.
It was, I believe what there was talk about.
Yeah.
That we're looking at amending.
I don't think it was passed.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think last week.
Okay.
Yeah, so, one thing too is like, when we look at this budget and look at even the different grants and so forth, there's gonna be changes. I talked to the superintendent, if something happened like in Title I, if Title I, it shouldn't be given to them, but if it isn't, we can figure it out. Or I'll-
Good job, Ron.
Okay, so,
We technically have already had a seconded motion to approve the request.
right. So we have a second in motion. Are there questions?
Comment?
Comments, whatever? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you, Kevin. I know that this is not easy and, yeah, making, basically making ends meet in a district whose funding is just, one of the lowest in the state, and we know it. And we're celebrating that we're getting these additional COVID funds. And to Gail's point earlier, it's always what would make us whole. And that's there, so it's fantastic, but we're also not starting at baseline, right? We know that those funds are there because it's not like things were, right, there's an enormous amount of reconciliation that has to happen with our students in every aspect of their education. And we're still one of the lowest funded, and those who get more money than us are also getting grant funds from the federal government to do more and catch their students up as well. So thank you, and that's it.
I will say, he is, it's a huge job. And I think the hardest thing for all of us has been to shift from being very poor to, what do you mean we don't have to choose one or the other? We can have it both, right? And we feel like this is not right. We shouldn't be able to do this because we've been living in poverty for so long and we're just bringing ourselves up to maybe some of the other alliance districts in terms of what they have.
Yep.
So, thank you, Kevin.
Okay. All right, so we have a seconded motion. Without any further questions or comments, I'm looking around. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Tina? Any abstentions? Okay, 9-1. All right, so on to the next item.
Item
There's
C,
more.
right?
Yes, item B.
I think we're on C.
Okay, we did B. Okay, C.
Okay. Personnel approved new position request for 3.0 elementary school teachers for Jefferson, North End, and Smith Elementary Schools.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Just a quick question for Mr. Kane. These are in addition to the budget that we just approved, or were these included in that budget?
I'm sorry, I missed
The 3 new positions,
Teachers.
elementary teachers.
Yes, they were the one.
So do we need to approve these positions then if they're in our adopted budget?
That's a good question. I don't think it hurts, but yeah.
Are they getting hired in this year?
I didn't hear what he
No.
said.
Redundantly approved them.
They're in the budget, I think just by acknowledging the budget.
This was when we went through, we check our numbers all the time, we check class sizes. And again, we are a little more generous in keeping some of our kindergartens at 14, 15, and 16, like other districts do. So we said we're gonna give one to each so we can maintain low numbers.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's vote on it, just for the fun of it. Good news.
Okay, we have a
It feels good
second
to say
motion.
yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Let's move on to the next one. Item D.
Okay, D, approve revised job description for equity and climate specialist district-wide.
Mary Ellen can speak to that. Annie.
Anyone have any questions about that?
I do. I'm curious.
Go ahead, Gail.
I know, sorry, I've been really quiet the last couple of weeks. So we're changing it from Connecticut teacher certification to preferred and then 092 preferred.
Mary Ellen, do you want to take that?
This initially, when we proposed it, was a teacher position. And what we're finding is that we're going through applicants, there certainly are teachers that have been trained in this work, but when we looked at other districts, and you may have seen it yourself, and there are a lot of districts that are putting human capital behind equity positions, having just a teaching certification can also be limiting. So we want to make sure that we're looking at all candidates, people who have been trained in equitable practices, people who have worked in other positions and have had these responsibilities. So while we're looking for people in the education field, of course, we may also want to look at people who have worked in the education field but not as a certified educator per se. So it just allows us to look at a wider variety of candidates and making sure we have the best fit for our district.
So this was recently posted, correct? So we'll have to repost it, you have to go back out, right? Isn't this job already, it's been out there?
We will have to repost it, yes.
Okay.
Well, they probably didn't get enough candidates, right? Wouldn't that be a reason? Yeah.
We want to make sure that we have the best candidates who
Right.
can find the variety of skill sets. So that's why we're kind of just switching off the certification practice. And then we will repost it.
So-
Job description, revised job description.
So we didn't get enough applicants that were like qualified for it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions or discussion on this item? All in favor, say aye.
Hold on, sorry,
Oh,
I'm still
sorry,
just,
okay.
I'm just trying to connect, and I understand the, broadening of the pool, and that maybe there are people who do other stuff in a district that doesn't require certification, because you do still need minimum 10 years experience. But when I look at things like the fourth bullet under responsibilities, collaborate with school-based pupil service and instructional teams in the development and implementation of programs and curricula aligned to the district's goals, I just have a hard time how someone without a certification can work on implementing curricula and aligning that. So yeah, I don't know, like how is this person going to have any of those gaps filled? What does an ideal candidate who maybe is not a certified teacher look like that can do that work?
And I don't think it still falls under, that's a valid question, right? You're working in the education field as it relates to supporting equity employment, working with us towards education. The intent, is my understanding, my conversations with Dr. Sanders, in order to broaden the pool of candidates that are able to be able to speak at global scale of equity and inclusion, it doesn't necessarily always mean somebody who has been a 90% also having been a classroom teacher or certified professional. So it allows us to broaden the position, but we'll still making sure that we're qualified in the educational setting in this case as well.
Right, so can you repeat some of the examples you said of people who may be qualified but don't have a certification?
Absolutely. So somebody who's worked in higher education, somebody who's worked in a state agency, somebody who's worked in a RESC, somebody who's done project management within the educational umbrella in our field, but may not necessarily have been a fifth grade teacher for 10 years or a special education teacher for 12 years. They should definitely have qualifications as described in the job description and educational setting, but not just a certified educator per se.
Could this also enable you to hire somebody who's been a certified educator in a different state?
I'm so sorry.
Sorry,
I
you
couldn't
can't hear
hear
me
you
over the
either.
muffled.
Someone who's been a certified educator from a different state.
Yes. Yep, and there's certification as well from others, because that would apply as well.
Or someone who's may not have completed their teaching certificate, but have been working either in that field or some type of counseling field.
Yeah, like I said, my one concern is, you know, for example, that bullet, like curriculum is a very intricate thing. And, you know, everyone who went to school thinks they know everything about schools, and it just doesn't work that way, right? You require a lot of training to truly understand curriculum alignment, and that just seems like a hard thing if it's part of the equity work, unless we're talking that this equity work is more like, you know, workshops on, you know, whatever, courageous conversations, or with that's different, but that just seemed like such an important duty that I can't see somebody without a certification being able to do that, but, so, yeah.
And I think we can also share with you, the candidate pool and have you go through the interview process and moving forward with candidates to make sure that there is that, why we're going to go, to make sure we have that correct balance, making sure that we kind of widen our sweep again, that we find candidates that have that balance, where they may not have, a certification or an in-state certification, they should be able to have experience that reflects an educational prowess in instruction. Or maybe they're not formally trained in equitable practices, that they have done enough consultant work to be able to do that successfully. So we're, again, I'm just going back to making sure it's where Dr. Sanders, making sure we have the right person for this work. It's just like for instructional coaches, a good coach, a good teacher doesn't necessarily need a good instructional coach, right? They have to be the best fit, the best, training, to be able to interact with people for this important work in a way that we want to make sure is the best match.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion on this item? All right, hearing no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hesitantly, aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
So like a
I
check
know.
minus.
Yeah, like I'm walking in between, and I'm a non-educator, right? I did have a hard time when you say curriculum. So I'm a no.
Okay, so let's just to be clear, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Okay, so we got Gail. Any others? Any abstentions? Okay. Let's move on to the next item.
Motion to approve a bid for the replacement of 4 boilers in the amount of $913,680 to Connecticut Combustion.
Second.
Any discussion on this item?
If I'm reading this correctly, I believe Connecticut Combustion was the low bidder, and that was the correct amount, Mr. Dion?
Correct. Yes, you went through an invitation to bid, we advertised both on the Connecticut website as well. Or for current, we did a mandatory walkthrough, we had 3 vendors show up, we had 2 that actually bid on our May 21st bid opening. Connecticut, but 2 bids was the lowest. The alternate 1, alternate 2. Alternate 1 is an abatement, which we leave the tank in place, fill it. That's what we'd like to do, but depending on the soil testing, we may have to go to alternate 2, which all the there, all 4 look.
Mr. Dion,
Kevin,
you sound like DJ Kevin Dion over here. It's just kind of.
I believe,
Turn off your camera and let's try it again.
I believe I can summarize what he was saying. He's talking about the
You're good.
2 alternates. And so alternate 1 is an abatement of the tank where I believe you just fill it in place but leave it in there. The other alternate 2 is where you remove the tank. That's a more expensive process. And the bid award that's up for approval is assuming that we might have to go with alternate 2, which is removing all the oil tanks. And hopefully it will be less than that. Did I summarize correctly, Mr. Dion?
That is correct, thank you.
That sounds much better too.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any discussion on this item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Unanimous. Next.
Motion to approve a purchase order, bid waiver, and contract approval between the Consolidated School District and I believe it's the YWCA in the amount of $25,200.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is unanimous. Okay, information, Pupil Services Contractor, Special Ed Services.
It's just information sharing.
This is information sharing. Is there anything we need to do with this? Oh. Okay, so those 2 contracts are in your package. Do you have any other business?
Motion to adjourn?
All right.
Say that.
Second.
Nothing that bad though.